Hey guys, it's me, Amaterasu, back with another part 2, the hope of the Senju clan. Anyway, I hope y'all enjoy now. Roll the intro.
Hey Ross, sauce it up.
My wheels, got in my bag and I got all my feels. I'm getting this paper, I'm stacking a meal. I'm with your hoe in the house on the hills. Yeah. I'ma keep it real, had to sacrifice to try to get my bands up. Shorty wanna fuck with me, she see me on the camera. She said she in love with me, but really I can't stand her. She just want part of this life cause she see me on the ground.
Chapter 7 Chance Meeting. It had been 2 years after the event in Oni no Kuni, and during that time Naruto had changed a good bit since then. After nearly being captured and killed by the Ame Nins, Tsunade had doubled Naruto's training regimen as well as his medical studies. She had also called in Jiraiya and informed him of the events that happened and asked him to create a tracking seal for Naruto and place it on him. Jiraiya did this by carving a tracking seal onto a chain earring and putting it onto Naruto's right ear. This way, if ever Naruto was in trouble or was missing, Tsunade or Jiraiya could easily track Naruto with it, since they would wear special rings with seals on them, which would allow them to track down Naruto wherever he went. The seal also worked where if Naruto channeled his chakra into the chain earring, Jiraiya and Tsunade's rings would heat up and tell them that he was in trouble and needed help. Tsunade also put her Sozo Seisei, creation rebirth, on Naruto's forehead and then taught him how to focus and store chakra into it and then release it. So to use the Infuin, Kai, Yin seal, release, so that if he was ever seriously hurt he could use it to heal himself. Tsunade had done this since she would rather have Naruto shorten his life very slightly than lose it entirely. Naruto had also become more dedicated to his training ever since his fight with the Ame Nins, where he had gotten a first-hand experience of how dangerous the life of a shinobi was. He had also used his desire to protect his family and friends to focus more on becoming stronger, so that he could protect his friends and family better, since he knew that the day would come when they would be unable to help him and they would need him to protect them in turn. During Naruto's training they focused a great deal on Naruto mastering his new superhuman strength, and although he could use it much better than he used to, he still was not on the same level as his mother, but still could do a lot of damage to people and things. Naruto had also gotten better in using medical jutsus, as he was able to assist his mother in healing people with non-life-threatening injuries or illness. He had even proven to be more skilled in certain areas than Tsunade, where he could use Chakura no Mesu, chakra scalpels, in close combat in a fight. During a training spar, Naruto showed that he was precise enough to be able to effectively cut several muscle tissues and tendons on her arms and legs and made it hard for her to move quickly enough or correctly. Tsunade also trained Naruto in genjutsu, where he showed to be surprisingly skilled in it, where he was able to quickly grasp the concept of genjutsu. For example, when Naruto caught Jiraiya trying to peek into the women's hot spring, he put Jiraiya in a genjutsu so that instead of seeing naked girls, Jiraiya would see old naked ladies with loads of wrinkles on their body. Jiraiya's screams of horror could hurt all around the town when it happened and caused him to have a cardiac arrest, while at the same time Naruto maniac laughing could also be heard, since over time Naruto had inherited several traits from Tsunade. The first was that he liked to gamble, but wasn't as addicted to it as Tsunade was and was very good at it. The second was that he had inherited Tsunade's nasty short temper, although he could control it better than she could, but when he lost it there would be a lot of collateral damage, just like with his mother. The third trait was that he got a perverse pleasure of beating up and torturing perverts, much to Jiraiya's dismay, who had been the object of most of Naruto's attacks on perverts, which involved him pranking Jiraiya. At the same time Naruto had somehow also gained a taste for playing pranks on people and was very good at it. Jiraiya had also trained him in ninjutsu and taught him earth jutsus like Doden, Ritsudo Tensho, earth style, tearing earth turning palm, Tsuchi Bunshin no Jutsu, earth clone technique, Doten, Shinju Zanshu no Jutsu, earth release, double suicide decapitation technique, Doden, Moguregakure no Jutsu, earth style, hiding like a mole technique, and Doden, Doroku Geishi, earth style, earth shore return, while he also helped him learn water jutsus like Suten, Mizurappa, water style, violent water wave, Mizu Bunshin no Jutsu, water clone technique, and Suten, Suishi no Jutsu, water style, water drowning technique. Also, thanks to the Shodai Hokage's necklace which Naruto now wore, his Makuten skills improved, where he could use Makuten, Hirain, wood style, impaling roots, 1, as well as Makuten, Mokushoku, wood style, wooden tentacles. He even taught himself how to use Moku Bunshin no Jutsu, wood style, wooden clone technique, after he learned Mizu Bunshin no Jutsu, Tsuchi Bunshin no Jutsu, as well as Makuten, Henge, wood style, transformation. Jiraiya also helped Naruto improve his sealing skill where he could easily seal objects and tools into scrolls, as well as use the Shikoku Fun, finger engraving seal, and a couple other sealing techniques. Also after the events in Oni no Kuni, Naruto kept in close contact with Shien where they wrote to one another, but after a year Shien stopped writing back to him. When he mentioned it to his mother, she said that maybe Shien was busy in training to be the next shrine maiden with her mother, since it took a lot of hard work and learning to be one and she was too busy to write right now. Naruto accepted the answer since Shien had mentioned to him that her mother was training her to be a shrine maiden and it was hard work to train to be one, but still he felt concerned as to why she did not reply once to him. A few months later in the middle of a forest in Mori no Kuni, forest country, Naruto was currently walking alone in the forest to train. Both Tsunade and Shizune along with Tonton were in the local village treating a few people. He had told his mother that he was going to train in the forest for a short while by himself since he found that sometimes he needed train alone. Tsunade had naturally been concerned when Naruto did this, but Naruto had promised that he would avoid any trouble and keep a low profile and keep from being noticed by anyone. Also since he still wore his tracking earring, she would know if he was ever in trouble and be able to find him quickly. Naruto wore a pair of gray shinobi pants, black shirt with his great-grandfather's necklace underneath it and a pair of sandals and a gray zip jacket over his black shirt. As Naruto trained alone in the forest he made sure that there was nobody nearby by sending out shadow clones to keep an eye out for anyone that may be coming his way and see him training. Knowing how important that his identity was kept secret until the time was right for his heritage to be announced. Naruto was training hard in taijutsu, since he had realized that he needed a style of fighting that worked well for him, where he could use his speed and naturally agility along with his super strength to their full extent. Although his mother was a skilled fighter in taijutsu she had no real style. She mainly used her sheer power and strength to overwhelm her opponents. Naruto knew this would not work for him, since he was not his mother and overwhelming his enemies with brute strength and power would not work for him. He knew there would be enemies out there that could not be defeated with strength and power alone and so he decided to create his own taijutsu style. Since he didn't really have a taijutsu teacher to train him since neither his mother, Shizune or Jiraiya were taijutsu experts in any real style that he could use. For the past year Naruto was trying to create a fighting style that was agile, fast-moving and hard-hitting where he would use not only his fists and feet, but also his elbows and knees. He would use fast-moving hits, jabs and kicks to confuse his opponents and keep them off balance, and at the same time use his natural agility to dodge or avoid his opponent's attacks. He would also use variations of powerful knee strikes, elbow strikes, punches and kicks with his super strength to break or crush different parts of his opponent's bones with a single hit. Thanks to his medical training from Shizune, Naruto knew what parts of the body were sensitive to hits and what parts of the body could cause the most pain to a person. He even trained himself to use several different locks on people that would cause even more pain to them and keep hold of them. Although Naruto had made good progress in developing and creating his new style of fighting he knew that he was still a long way away from fully developing it. After a few hours Naruto had decided that he head back to his family temporary home and make some lunch. As he traveled he soon felt 2 very powerful chakra signatures and 3 minor ones coming not far from where he was. Judging by how strong they were, Naruto figured they were shinobi since they were too high to be to ordinary people. Not recognizing them Naruto decided to go investigate them and see who they were. After about 10 minutes, Naruto finally came up to where he felt the chakra signatures. The people he felt were camped in a small clearing with a fire pit in the middle and several sleeping bags around it. The 5 people he had sensed were in the clearing. 4 of them were kids who looked to be about his age, if not slightly older. 3 of the kids were girls while the other was a boy. The 5th person was a large dark-skinned man who he saw talking to the kids. When Naruto saw the group his thoughts on them being shinobi was confirmed, by the way they were dressed. One of the girls was the same dark skin color as the older man. She had dark red hair that reached down to her shoulder blades and with a bandana on her head. She had golden eyes with small round golden earrings. She wore a gray top, a long black skirt with black shinobi pants underneath it and sandals. She also had a long katana on her back. Another girl was pale skin and had short blonde hair just around her chin. She had blue eyes and wore a short revealing skirt with a gray shirt and a slight midriff showing that she wore a fishnet shirt underneath it. Her appearance also showed she was already at the stage where her breasts were developing well and her body was also starting to become curvy, showing that in a couple of years' time the girl would be a real knockout. Also, like the redhead girl, the blonde girl had a long katana on her back. The 3rd girl had long blonde hair that was tied up in a ponytail that reached down her back. She had dark eyes that were cat-like shaped and was almost as curvy as the other blonde girl and was only starting to develop. She wore gray shinobi pants with a black short-sleeve top with fishnet shirt underneath it and wore black fingerless gloves and gray sandals with leg guards. Like the other two girls, she also carried a long katana on her back. The boy was dark-skinned with spiky white hair. He had a gray baggy hoodie with black shinobi pants and sandals and also wore fingerless red teku. Naruto also saw him sucking on a lollipop. Like the girls, the boy also carried a long katana on her back. The dark-skinned man, who was clearly the kid's sensei, possessed a muscular build, as well as white hair and beard. On his right shoulder, he had a tattoo that says iron, and on his left cheek, he had a tattoo of a bull's horn. He wore oval-shaped sunglasses and a white-colored forehead protector. He also wore a white-colored one-strap over one shoulder flak jacket for a jonin, with a red rope tied around his waist, white hand bands, and a white scarf around his neck, and carried 7 swords on his back. When Naruto saw the symbols of the headband on the group's heads, he knew that the group was from Kumo, since he had learned all the symbols of the current shinobi villages by heart after the Yame Nin incident. Since he wanted to know more about the shinobi world, where should another incident like what happened in Oni no Kuni happen again, he would at least know what caliber of shinobi he would be up against. Naruto could also sense the stronger of the 2 chakra signatures that he had sensed was coming from the sensei, while the other was coming from the blonde girl with the ponytail. This of course surprised Naruto. Even though he knew that some people would be naturally born with high chakra levels, he did not expect as much as what he was sensing from the girl. As he watched them, Naruto saw the sensei taking out one of his swords and then have the boy come forward and take out his own katana. Although Naruto could not hear them, it was obvious that they were having a spar while the girls watched and no doubt waited for their turn to spar with their sensei. As he watched the boy and his sensei spar, Naruto could not help but be impressed by how well the boy fought with his sword. Although it was obvious that the sensei wasn't going all out and was only really playing with him, it was still interesting to watch. Soon enough, Naruto watched the short-haired blonde girl and the red-haired girl each take their turns to spar against their sensei. After the red girl was defeated, Naruto's curiosity got the better of him and he decided to move closer so he could watch them better and hear what they were saying. Carefully, Naruto snuck through the trees around the group and moved closer to the group. From his new spot that was closer to the group, Naruto could fully see what they were doing and now hear what they were saying. "Nice move there, little Yugito," the man said as he blocked her sword strike. "HPMH," the girl named Yugito replied as she glared at her sensei and got her sword ready to strike again. But before she could move, the sensei quickly put up his hand to signal her to stop. "Hold on, little kitty, I just thought up a good rhyme," the man said. He then took out a notebook and pencil and began to write down something. "Sensei exclamation mark dot dot dot, this is no time for you to write down one of your stupid rhymes, and I thought I told you not to call me that," Yugito yelled angrily. "Hey, don't diss the rhyming of Rhyme Master B," the man replied as he looked up at the blonde girl. "I'll diss them all I want when they interfere with my training, and besides I'm getting pretty sick of," Yugito replied angrily, but stopped when her sensei suddenly threw his pencil, which was covered in lightning chakra. The pencil flew right past her with incredible speed and went through some bushes behind her. After the man threw the lightning-enhanced pencil, Naruto jumped out of the bushes to avoid it, where it then went through the space that his head was in a moment ago. But even as he avoided the projectile, the pencil cut his left cheek slightly and then went through 2 tree trunks before it fell to the ground, much to Naruto's shock. But when he jumped out of the way of the lightning-enhanced pencil, he had also revealed himself to Yugito and the other Kumo shinobi. "I spy with my little eye, some stupid fool, spying on I," the man said in a bad rhyme when Naruto jumped out of the bushes. When Naruto realized that he had revealed himself to the Kumo team, he quickly ran off into the forest. "Who the hell was that?" the dark-skinned red-headed girl asked. "I do not know, but we should go after him and capture him. He may be a spy for another village," said the short-haired blonde girl. "Samui is right, we need to go after him now," Yugito said. Where she, the girl known now as Samui, and the other 2 students went after Naruto, leaving their sensei alone, who just sighed and went after his students to make sure that nothing would happen to them. With Naruto and the Kumo students, as Naruto ran through the forest, he cursed himself for the 10th time about being so curious and not leaving well enough alone, while at the same time wondered how he kept getting himself into these kinds of messes. Naruto continued to run through the forest until he suddenly forced to stop, when several shurikens were thrown in front of him. As soon as he stopped, he found himself surrounded by the 4 students with their swords drawn. "He's just a kid," the dark-skinned red-headed girl said. "Hey, who are you calling just a kid?" Naruto angrily said, as he didn't like being called that by a girl who was about the same age as him. "Forget it, now come with us peacefully and you won't be hurt. We have some questions for you," the boy said. "Let's not," Naruto said as he dropped several small flash smoke bombs on the ground, causing a bright flash in the area around them to be filled with smoke. "Cough, cough, cough, he used a flash smoke bombs on us, cough," the boy croaked. "It's not only that, cough, cough, he also must have mixed some pepper powder into the smoke bomb so to blind us," Sami croaked as her eyes and throat were burning from the pepper powder. Soon after, the four Kumo-jinan got out of the smoke-filled area and used the water from their canteens to wash away the power from their eyes. Once the pepper powder was out of their eyes, the boy quickly looked around the ground for any tracks that Naruto may have left. When he looked, he saw several different tracks leading in different directions. "Which way did he go, Amoe?" asked Yugito. "I can't tell. Seemingly there are at least 4 different tracks leading in 4 different directions. My guess is he created clones when he used those flash smoke pepper bombs and had them go in different directions so to confuse us. It's a smart move, since if we all follow one, we have a 1 in 4 chance of picking the right one, and if we split up into pairs, we have a 1 in 2 chance of picking the right one, and if we each split up and each chase after one of us will go after the real one while the other 3 chase after the clones," the boy named Amoe said as he looked to the tracks on the ground. "That is probably what he wants, since we would be separated from one another and will be unable to use our numbers to our advantage, since the one who picks him would have to fight him by themselves without the rest of us to help," Samui answered. "We have no other choice. We can't let him get away. He's clearly a shinobi as he has the training," Yugito replied. "So who goes where?" the red-haired girl asked. "Samui, you go follow the one that's gone west. Amoe, you go follow the one that's headed north. Karu, you go follow the one that's heading northwest. I'll follow the one that's going east," Yugito said, where the rest of her team nodded and went after their target. With Karu, after about 15 minutes of tracking her target, Karu soon caught sight of her target. As she chased after him, she heard Yugito on the radio. "Cat to fiery red, sucker and cold blonde, come in guys, over." "I'm here, over," Amoe replied over the radio. "Cold blonde here, go ahead cat, over," Samui replied over the radio. "Fiery red here, over," Karu answered. "I've just taken care of the one that I was following. He was a clone, but was not like any kind of clone I've seen before. When I destroyed him, it didn't turn into mud, water or lightning, yet he was solid, over," Yugito said. "That troubling. Maybe he knows some kind of new super cloning technique that we haven't heard of. Maybe we should fall back. This guy could be a powerful shinobi that is as strong as Sensei, over," Amoe replied. "Don't be an idiot, sucker. No one is stronger than Sensei, not even the Raikage, and besides he's just a kid. We can take him. Besides, I see my target now, over," Karu said. "Don't underestimate him, fiery red. He's already tricked us once before. He could do it again, over," Samui warned over the radio. "I'll be fine. I call you guys back in a few minutes to tell you if it's the real him or not, over and out," Karu answered. As Karu chased after her target, she took out a few kunai and threw them at him. The kunai missed him, but as he dodged them, her target lost his balance and fell off the branch he was on and slipped, causing him to the ground hard. Seeing this, Karu quickly jumped down to the ground and went over to her target to see if her target was the real Naruto. As she moved closer, the Naruto in front of her remained still with his eyes closed and his face to the ground. "Huh, guess you're not so tough after all? But then, that's what you get when you deal with a shinobi of Kumagakure, the hidden cloud," Karu said with a smirk. Karu was so confident of herself, that when she walked over to him to see if he was the real Naruto or not, she failed to notice the fresh pile of green leaves on the ground near her target and stood on them, activating a rope snare that would have pulled her up to a tree. Fortunately for Karu, she was able to react quickly and flip backwards to avoid the trap. But once she landed, she found that she had landed on a tripwire that activated another trap where 2 large tree logs came out of the tree line on her left and right sides and were about to collide into her. Acting quickly, Karu narrowly dodged the tree logs by rolling forward when they collided with one another. Unfortunately, when Karu rolled forward, she rolled over another tripwire that activated another trap, where a steel wire net that was hidden under a genjutsu sprung from underneath her and lifted her up into the trees. As she hung from a tree in the net, Karu struggled to get free, but the net was too strong for her to break. She then went to try and cut herself free from the net with a kunai, but when she went to her pouch she couldn't find it. She then looked around for it and saw it on the ground below her. It was then that Naruto stood up and went over and picked up her pouch and then looked up to her with a cheeky smirk that infuriated her. "First rule of being a shinobi: never let your opponent get the drop on you," Naruto said with a smirk and then walked away. But not before turning around again and thanking Karu for the extra gear, after which he ran into the tree line, where he could hear Karu's screams of anger and rage, swearing she would kill him. Once Karu calmed down a little, she quickly got onto her radio. "Fiery red to cat, cold blonde, and sucker," over, Karu spoke. "Cat here, go ahead, fiery red," Yugito replied. "I hear you, fiery red," Amoe answered. "Cold blonde here, what is it, fiery red? Was your target the real one?" Samui asked. "Yeah, I'm pretty certain that my target was him, but he got away," Karu replied angrily. "How?" asked Yugito. "He tricked me and caught me in a trap," Karu answered angrily as she was humiliated at being tricked so easily. "We told you not to underestimate him, but you didn't listen to us," Amoe said over the radio. "Shut up, you idiot," Karu shouted furiously as she was red with humiliation and anger. I'm the idiot? I wasn't the one that got tricked and is now trapped somewhere, Amoe replied calmly. Before Kairo could respond, Yugito suddenly shouted into the radio. Both of you shut up, this isn't the time for your petty bickering. Cat is right, we need to capture him. Fiery Red, which direction did he go? Over, Samui asked. He's still heading northwest. Over, Kairo replied. Right then, sucker, Cold Blonde, both of you head in his direction and try and head him off and capture him. I'll try and catch up with you as soon as possible. Fiery Red, once we have captured him, we'll come back and free you, so hang tight. Over, Yugito said. Roger, Samui said. Roger, Amoe replied. Roger, Kairo grumbled as there was little she could do other than hang one in the net. Once she finished talking, she tried to make herself as comfortable as possible until her teammates came to help her. As she did, she muttered several different painful things that she would do to a certain blonde-hair boy when she saw him again. With Naruto, as Naruto ran through the forest, he could not help but be pleased with himself. He had taken care of the Kumo-jinan chasing after him, while the other two were still chasing his shadow clones, and even though the fourth member had taken out the clone she was chasing, she was still too far away to catch up to him. Just when Naruto thought he was in the clear, his mother's training came into effect where his senses warned him of danger. The next second, Naruto was hit in the back by a dozen or so shuriken that had been thrown by Amoe a few meters behind him. But just after the shuriken hit him, Naruto turned into a wooden log. When Amoe saw this, he frowned, since he knew Naruto had used a Kawarimi no Jutsu, body replacement technique, to replace himself with a wooden log. He also knew that he had now lost the advantage as he had given away his position, while Naruto was now somewhere hidden in the trees. Realizing that he was now at a disadvantage, Amoe drew his katana and cautiously moved through the trees, looking for the blonde, while at the same time keeping his guard up. As he looked around, his shinobi senses quickly kicked in as he quickly spun around and deflected several shuriken that were thrown from behind him. Before Amoe could retaliate, he suddenly saw Naruto appear to his left with his kunai in hand, leaping towards him. Seeing Naruto, Amoe quickly brought up his katana and blocked the attack. He then pushed Naruto back, making him lose his balance. Taking advantage of this, Amoe then slashed at Naruto with his katana. As soon as Amoe slashed Naruto with his katana, Naruto puffed into smoke, revealing it to be a shadow clone. What the? Thought Amoe when the clone exploded, but before he could fully realize what had happened, several small spherical objects fell from above and exploded, releasing a sleeping gas and knocking out Amoe. Before he fell asleep, Amoe looked up and saw the real Naruto standing from a tree branch above him. Realizing what had happened, and that it was already too late to do anything, Amoe could only think of one word: damn and quat. When Amoe lost consciousness, he fell off the tree branch he was on. But before he hit the ground, Naruto jumped off the branch he was on and caught the Kumo-jinan. Since all he wanted to do was get away, didn't want to hurt anyone. Once he laid Amoe on the ground, he then ran off in case the others showed up. As he made his way through the forest, Naruto silently thanked his mother for teaching him to make sleeping gas bombs, as well as the sleep gas itself, since it had come in quite handy for taking Amoe out without hurting him. Unfortunately, Naruto did not get very far. His danger sense kicked in again, where he had to duck several kuna thrown at him from his left-hand side. When he turned, he saw Samui on a tree branch several meters away, where she then leapt forward with her katana. Quickly dodging several slashes from Samui's katana, Naruto used another smoke bomb to cover the area he was in, giving himself a chance to get away from Samui and think about what to do next. When Samui got out of the smoke-filled area, she quickly took a defensive stance with her katana out and ready to block or deflect any kind of attack that Naruto may do. Suddenly, from Samui's right, Naruto appeared on a nearby branch and threw several kunai at her. Wasting no time, Samui turned around and deflected the kunai with her katana. In a feat of impressive skill, she then grabbed one of the kunai she had deflected and threw it back at Naruto, hitting him right between the eyes, before he could move away. When Naruto was hit by the kunai, he exploded into a puff of smoke, revealing that the Naruto she had been fighting with was a clone. Using the clone as a distraction, the real Naruto moved around Samui and attempted sneak up on her and take her out quickly. Unfortunately though for Naruto, after destroying the clone, Samui had realized what he was doing and twirled around to face him, and slashed at her fellow blonde with her katana. Luckily, Naruto was able to avoid her slash, but was forced on the defensive. Saw Samui chased after him. As Samui chased after Naruto, the blonde boy quickly found himself having to put a good deal more effort into his dodging Samui's attack, since he knew that if he didn't, the blonde girl would skewer him or cut up into little pieces. But because his attention on the blonde-hair girl had increased, his attention to his surroundings decreased, so he didn't see the large rock that he was quickly backing towards until he stepped half on it and lost his footing. Seeing her chance, Samui leapt forward with her blade already descending upon the boy. In a desperate attempt at self-preservation, Naruto's left hand shot out and managed to catch the girl's wrist, and with a quick twist of his own wrist, he managed to get her to drop the katana. However, that movement also served to pull Samui towards him, sending both of them rolling across the ground in a mass of flying limbs before finally coming to a stop, one that ended with them being in a rather awkward position. Naruto's left hand was still holding on to Samui's right wrist, pinning it to the ground above her head, while Naruto's own right hand had ended up between the girl's left arm and her body, touching her chest. Naruto's right leg had come to rest between the girl's thighs in a very intimate fashion, leaving his left leg as the only thing really keeping their pelvises apart from each other. It took a moment or two for the two to catch their breaths as they were both panting heavily with a slight bead of sweat falling down their brows from fighting only moments ago, and both of them were staring at each other's blue eyes intently. Soon enough they both realized the awkward situation they were in, where they each had their own separate reaction. Naruto's cheeks started to blush red when he realized the intimate position he was in with Samui. But despite the situation, he silently thanked whatever deity he could think of, that his godfather and mother weren't here to see this. Since if Jiraiya saw Naruto being in this kind of position with another member of the opposite sex, he would never let the blonde boy hear the end of it. His mother on the other hand would most likely have gone postal on him and Samui if she saw this, if not do something worse. Samui on the other hand kept cool, calm and emotional look on her face, despite the position she found herself in with Naruto. Although this only lasted a few seconds, where her facade quickly broke and a look of absolute rage and anger appeared on her face and a dangerous look was in her eyes. A look that Naruto was very familiar with from the many times he had seen it on his mother when Jiraiya said or did something perverted, which would result in her beating him into next week for it. It was then that Samui completely lost her cool and screamed, "You pervert." She then kicked Naruto off her, who flipped backwards as she kicked him, so that he would land of his feet. But as soon as he did, Samui got up and charged forward in full feminine rage and slashed the male blonde with her katana again, but this time much faster and much more deadly than before, giving him little opportunity to do anything other than dodge her attacks. Shit, I need to do something quick or else she might actually kill me, a concerned Naruto thought as he continued to avoid Samui's deadly slashes. As Naruto ducked one of Samui's slashes, he kicked away her legs, causing her to fall on her back, which gave Naruto a chance to jump away. He then rolled up his jacket sleeve to reveal a senbon launcher on his arm that Shizune and gave him the cried out Shikamis Hinden, prepared needle shot, firing 5 senbon needles at once at Samui. The needles were loaded with a toxin that Shizune taught Naruto to make that would paralyze his target and then knock them out a few minutes later. Seeing the needles, Samui skillfully deflected them with her katana, but as soon as she did, Naruto was gone, as the needles were a distraction, giving Naruto a chance to hit and plan. Realizing what Naruto had done, Samui fell into a defensive stance and readied herself for any sneak attack that Naruto would make. After a minute or so, she suddenly saw several shuriken flying towards her from her right. But when she deflected them, she felt a sharp pain at the side of her legs and the side of her arms, where they then went numb and she collapsed. When she looked down at her legs, she saw several senbon needles stuck in her legs and realized that she had been duped again, and guessed that the senbon needles were coated with some kind of numbing toxin. As she lay there unable to move her arms or legs, Naruto appeared above her, holding a small spherical object. He then brought the object to her nose and crushed it, which released a gas that knocked her out within a second of inhaling it. Before Samui fell unconscious, she heard Naruto say sorry and quat. Once Samui was out, Naruto brought her over to a nearby tree and left her there, knowing that she would waken up after a little while but would be still unable to move for a bit longer thanks to the toxin he used in his senbon needles. For about 15 minutes Naruto ran through the forest, but just when he thought he was home free, an angry Yugito suddenly appeared in front of him. Crap, Naruto thought as stop. This is as far as you go. You may have taken out my teammates, but you will find that I am not as easily defeated as they were, Yugito said. But if you give up now, you won't be hurt. Thanks, but no thanks, giving up isn't in my vocabulary. Fine by me, it's your funeral, Yugito replied as she got into her fighting stance with her katana. Don't underestimate the boy kitten. Although he is young, he is quite skilled to take out all your other teammates by himself without seriously hurting them. Also, I feel a strange power coming from him, one that is familiar yet different, the Nibi said in Yugito's mind. What power are you talking about? There's nothing special about him, he's just a kid from some enemy village, Yugito replied in her mind. As I said, I'm not really sure. All that I know is that as I look at this boy through your mind, I sense a strange yet familiar power coming from him, one that I have not felt in many years, the Nibi answered. Then what is this power you're feeling, Yugito asked. I do not know, the power is just familiar in a way, yet at the same time it is different. I can't explain it and I can't remember where I felt this kind of power before. All I know for certain is that it was long ago, answered Nibi. Well, that's great, Nibi, thanks for nothing, Yugito said with a scowl, as the Nibi's advice was useless if she didn't know what she was up against. Sorry, kitten. But still, just be on your guard with him, the monster cat replied. Fine. Soon after, Yugito made the first move and charged forward with her katana. Naruto quickly blocked it with his kunai, which he had taken out when Yugito drew out her katana. For several minutes the two of them traded blows with one another until they came to a deadlock where Naruto's kunai went against Yugito's katana in a struggle for dominance. "You're pretty good for a kid," Yugito grunted as she tried to overpower Naruto. "I could say the same thing about you, since you're pretty good for a girl," Naruto replied with a smirk, which in turn infuriated Yugito, since she despised comments like that. She then pushed Naruto back and tried to slash him with her katana, but Naruto flipped backwards to avoid the slash and then threw several kunai at her. Yugito quickly deflected the kunai, but in the angry state she was in she could not focus correctly and missed too, where one scratched her left hip leg and the other scratched her right arm. Ignore that scratches, she charged straight at Naruto with her katana. Naruto tried to block with his one remaining kunai, but Yugito quickly deflected the kunai with her sword and slashed at Naruto. But as soon as she slashed at Naruto he turned into a log, revealing he had used a Kawarimi no Jutsu. As soon as she realized this, Yugito suddenly felt her right arm go numb as well as her left leg. As she felt her arm and leg go numb, Yugito quickly realized that the kunai that had scratched her had been coated with a nerve toxin to make her arms go numb. When she realized this she began to curse herself for getting angry and losing focus. It was after this that she then saw Naruto coming behind her with a kunai and was about to stab her in the back with it. Seeing this, Yugito quickly twirled around on her good leg to avoid the attack, and as he went by her, she slashed at his back. But as soon as she did, Naruto turned in a puff of smoke, revealing to be a clone. It was when she realized this that she felt a pair of hands grabs onto her legs and pull her down onto the ground, where only her head could be seen above ground. Yugito tried to move but could not, as the nerve toxin had quickly spread through her body and the ground was too tight against her that she could not move enough to dig herself out. It was right then that she found Naruto standing right above her, looking down at her with an annoying smirk on his face, which infuriated her to no end. "What the hell did you do to me?" Yugito growled as she glared up at Naruto. "Doten, Shinju Zanshu no Jutsu, Earth Style, Double Suicide Decapitation. It's a very useful technique that pulls down a person, so that only their head is above ground, where they are unable to move, and I can do anything I like to them, but luckily for you I won't, since I don't want to. So if you excuse me now I have to go, but it was fun playing around with you guys, we should do it again some other time. See ya little kitty," Naruto said, as he walked away and waved goodbye to her and saying the nickname he heard her sensei call her, which further infuriated the girl at being so humiliated by him. "I told you, kitty, not to underestimate him," the Nibi said to Yugito. "Can it, Nibi? I don't need to hear this now. I need you to give me some of your chakra now so I can get out of here," Yugito said. "Kitten, you're not ready to handle my chakra yet. You could go out of control with it," the Nibi warned. "I can handle it, Nibi. Now let me have it so that I can get him," Yugito replied angrily. "Very well, kitten, but you have been warned," the Nibi said as she sent some of her chakra to Yugito. As Naruto walked away from Yugito, he suddenly felt a large menacing surge of chakra coming from behind him. When he turned around he saw it was coming from Yugito, after which a massive explosion of chakra erupted from her, causing earth to be thrown all around and dust cover the area. When the dust settled and cleared, Naruto saw Yugito back above the ground on all fours and covered in a cloak of red chakra that was in the shape of a car with a single tail made out of chakra behind her, while the irises of her eyes were now yellow and cat-like and her fingernails grew longer and sharper, making her hands claw-like. "What the hell?" Naruto thought before he saw Yugito charged forward at him. Naruto barely dodged Yugito's attack by jumping to the side. He then quickly made several shadow clones. The 3 shadow clones then surrounded her and threw several kunai at her, but before the kunai could hit her, Yugito let out a massive roar where a massive pulse wave of chakra erupted from her and blew away the kunai and destroyed the clones in one go. It also blasted Naruto several feet away and caused a large dust cloud to cover the area at the same time. "What the hell is going on? What kind of power is this? It isn't normal chakra. It feels dark and menacing," Naruto thought as he skidded on the ground. Once he regained his footing, a long red arm made out of chakra came out of the dust cloud and tried to grab Naruto. Fortunately, Naruto was able to jump away into a nearby tree to avoid the arm. "Shit, I need to think of something fast now before she kills me," Naruto thought as he tried to come up with a plan. He knew he couldn't use any of his more powerful jutsus, since if he did and he defeated Yugito with them, she would tell her sensei and her teammates what he did. Once she woke up, that would then attract even more attention on him, since he was already using Kage Bushin, which could cause a big enough scene as it is. It would be even worse if he tried to use his Makuten powers on her to subdue her, where they would start looking for him and his family and hunt them down. As he moved through the forest to keep his distance from Yugito, he was forced to jump out of the tree he was in to avoid another of Yugito's, who appeared and destroyed the tree he was in a moment ago and destroyed it. Yugito was currently running wild, where she lost complete control of herself thanks to the Nibi chakra. She was unable to handle and control the Bijou chakra, just as the Nibi had feared, and was just attacking Naruto on pure animals. After a few minutes of dodging and trying to keep Yugito from killing him, Naruto decided to throw caution to the wind since if he didn't do something soon, she would kill him. So when Yugito tried to slash him with her claws again, Naruto quickly used a Kawarimi no Jutsu to replace himself with a clone he made earlier, where as soon as she destroyed it, the real Naruto snuck up behind her and placed a small note on the back of her neck. The note had a chakra-suppressing seal on it, which Naruto had drawn. Jiraiya had taught Naruto how to make such a seal in case he needed it to subdue someone and keep them from using their chakra. Naruto hoped that the seal would disrupt the strange chakra Yugito was using and stop her. Once the seal was placed on her, it began to work as Yugito collapsed onto her knees and the red chakra started to dissipate. But just when Naruto thought it was over, Yugito suddenly let out another massive roar and another massive blast of chakra erupted from her and blasted Naruto back to a few tree away. Once the blast ended, Naruto saw Yugito back on all fours again and with the cat-shaped cloak of chakra around her again. When Naruto saw this, he knew his seal had failed as Yugito's strange chakra was too strong and potent to be suppressed by his seal. When Yugito locked eyes on Naruto, she let out another large roar and charged at him. Knowing he had to move, Naruto quickly jumped away and started to run again, trying to think of a new plan to deal with Yugito. For the next 2 minutes Naruto jumped from treetop to avoiding each of Yugito's attacks. It was just when Yugito had destroyed her 12th tree, she found herself surrounded by a dozen Narutos on all sides who attacked her. It of course didn't take her long to deal with the clones, and once she had destroyed all of them, she began to search for the real Naruto and found him within a few seconds, not far from where she was. She then charged forward at him at breakneck speed, but just as she was a few feet away from him, 4 trees that surrounded her blew up with her in the middle of it. What Yugito had not known was that as she was battling the Naruto clones, Naruto had used Fubaku Hojin, sealed bomb square release, technique, where he planted 4 exploding notes on 4 trees and then lured Yugito to where he wanted her to go, by allowing her to see him. So that as soon as she entered the area with the notes around it and tried to leave it, the notes exploded, destroying everything in between the 4 trees. Once the smoke cleared from the explosion, Naruto saw the remains of the trees all over the area. When Naruto saw the tree trunks all over the area and could not see Yugito, he was about to go over and move the trees to find her, fearing that he might have killed her. But before he could, he felt another massive surge of chakra and the remains of the trees were blown away by a massive blast of chakra. Once the smoke dissipated, Naruto saw Yugito in the middle of the now destroyed area, but she was now sitting up on all fours hunched like a cat, while the red chakra was starting to dissipate. The chakra outline only remained around her upper torso and arms, although the chakra outline was very thin. When Naruto saw her standing up with the red chakra around her and saw that her irises were still cat-like and yellow, he knew that it wasn't over just yet. Knowing that she could recall her strange chakra again to full power, Naruto decided to finish the fight before it could start again. He then quickly deactivated the seal weights on his clothes and raced forward at Yugito with impressive speed. He then threw several senbone needles at certain parts of her legs and arms to disable her for a few seconds, after which he quickly came up behind her and did several hand seals and activated his Chakura no Mesu, chakra scalpels, where he then severed her nerves at the back joint of her right legs and did the same on her arms. This caused Yugito to collapse on the ground, unable to move with her nerves severed. When Naruto saw Yugito fall to the ground and unable to move her arms or legs, he thought he had finally finished the fight. That was until the red chakra she had been summoning came back and covered her whole body again, where it began to heal her and saw her beginning to move her arms and legs and lifting herself up. Ooh, come on. What the hell is with this girl? What does it take to knock her out already? She just doesn't give up. Annoyed Naruto thought, as he was tired, sore, bruised and his clothes were torn up and filthy. Quickly bending down to Yugito, who was now only just starting to get up, Naruto gave her a quick hard chop to the neck and knocked her out cold, before she could even fully call on her strange power. Once he was certain that Yugito was finally out cold, Naruto let out a tired sigh. Damn, I didn't think she'd be this hard to beat. He then picked Yugito up and checked her for any serious injuries. Fortunately there were none, since the red chakra cloak seemingly protected her from any real harm. When he had finished checking Yugito over, Naruto could not help but notice that Yugito was quite cute as she slept, or knocked if you wanted to get technical. But as soon as that thought entered his mind, Naruto quickly brushed that thought away, fearing that his godfather's influence was starting to take an effect on him and he was becoming a pervert like him. Once he was certain Yugito was okay, he left her against a tree and left her there so that her friends could find her easily or she could make her way back to her camp. Just when Naruto was about to leave and get back home, he suddenly heard hands clapping and a male voice speaking up. That was a one-beat bottoming, kick-ass, butt-kicking of a show little squirt. I gotta say you got some moves, but still you're no match for the master of rhymes, the king of slam, the bring down of beat down. The melodizer, Lord Eight Tails, Killer Bee Ohio yeah. It was then that Naruto turned around and saw Kumo Jinan sensei standing up on a nearby branch and seemingly watching his and Yugito's fight. Who the hell are you? Naruto asked as he took a step back from Yugito. Weren't you listening, stupid? I float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. I'm Killer Bee the eight-tailed beast, yo. The man named Killer Bee replied in a bad rapper impersonation as he moved around in some kind of funny dance. What the hell? Naruto thought as he was weirded out by Killer Bee and the way he was talking to him. Killer Bee then jumped down from the branch and landed in front of Naruto. But as dazzled and as zam as I am, I can't just let you spilt and go after you owned all my students. Shit, what I'm going to do? This guy a Jonin, I don't stand a chance against him. A worried Naruto thought as he fell into a fighting stance. He knew that his only chance was to fight and then make a break for it, and even if he couldn't get away, he was at least not going down without a fight. When Killer Bee saw that Naruto was intended to fight, he couldn't but smile, since although he could tell that Naruto was tired from fighting all his students, he could not help but admire Naruto's guts at still willing to fight even though he knew he couldn't win. You got guts, little squirt, but none too bright, Killer Bee replied as he signaled Naruto to come at him, which he did. Naruto attacked Killer Bee with a series of fast and strong jabs and kicks as well as elbows and knee kicks from different angles. As Naruto attacked him, Killer Bee blocked all of his attacks with ease, since although Naruto was very skilled for his age, he was still a novice compared to the Kumo Jinchuriki, who was a highly skilled shinobi with years of training and experience. But even still, Killer Bee was impressed with Naruto's fighting skill, especially his taijutsu, since he had never seen or heard of a style like the one he was using. He could tell that the style involved fast, hard-hitting moves using different parts of Naruto's body, and it worked well with Naruto's natural agility, and it gave Killer Bee little chance to fight back. He could also tell that in a few years' time, with a few more years of training, Naruto's fighting style would be quite deadly with enough training and practice. Killer Bee had also been watching how Naruto handled each of his students and could tell that Naruto was quite skilled in the different ways he had handled Yugito and the others without really harming them. He was especially impressed with how Naruto had fought Yugito, since it wasn't every day that a person saw a 10-year-old kid fight a wild and berserk Jinchuriki and defeat it. Granted, if Yugito had been able to control her power, she would have won, but still, for Naruto to have defeated her was nothing short of astonishing, and he wasn't even a fully trained ninja. There had been even times during the fight that Killer Bee thought he would have to intervene and stop Yugito, but in the end he didn't have to. After a little while, Killer Bee decided to end the fight, where he quickly grabbed onto Naruto's shirt and threw him over to a nearby tree, and then quickly took out 3 of his katanas and threw them at Naruto as soon as he hit the tree. The katanas then hit the collar of Naruto's gray jacket and its sleeves so that the 3 katanas would pin him against the tree and he would be unable to move. Why don't you hang around while I go wake up little kitty from her cat nap, Killer Bee said as Naruto tried to struggle out of the katanas. Once Killer Bee woke Yugito up with some smelling salt, he told her to watch over Naruto, while he went to free and wake Omo and the others. While Killer Bee went to free her teammates, Yugito watched over Naruto, who had given up trying to get free of the katanas. As Yugito watched over Naruto, the young kunoichi glared at Naruto as she was in a bad mood over how Naruto defeated her, not once but twice. The first time because she had underestimated his skill, while the second time because she overestimated her own skill. It also didn't help that the Nibi was also telling her in her mind over and over again about how she told her so about underestimating Naruto and overestimated herself. As Naruto was pinned to the tree, he thought about his situation and what he should do. He knew he could get free if he used his superhuman strength. But if he did, he knew Yugito would attack him, and she had already proven to be a dangerous opponent to fight against, and even if he went all out and defeated her quickly, her sensei and teammates would sense the chakra from the battle and come to her aid and overwhelm him. Not to mention it would blow his cover, where they would report him to their village and they would in turn track him and his family down. The same could be said if he used the seal to call for help from his mother, since if she came they could find out who she really was and in turn find out that he was her son, ruining the low profile that they've been keeping all these years. Although that's if they survived his mother's wrath, since Shizune had told him a while back what his mother did to the Ame nins that had attacked him in Shien, as well as what happened to Shuta once High Priestess Miraku had gotten everything from him. She allowed his mother to deal with him, where according to what he had heard, the prison cell had a new color scheme on the ceiling, floor and walls, the color red, and Naruto wanted to avoid needless bloodshed. Hence Naruto knew that his best chance to get away without anyone getting hurt was to give them a convincing enough story to prove that he wasn't a threat to them and that they could let him go. In the event that idea didn't work, then they would most likely try and take him back to their village for questioning, where he would use his superhuman strength to break out of his bindings and sneak away. And if they tried to kill him, then he would go all out and try and escape and call for help from his mother with the seal earring and worry about the consequences later. After a little while, Killer Bee returned with Amoi, Samui, and Kairu, where when they arrived, Kairu and Samui glared at the young Senju over what happened when he fought them. Once they arrived, Killer Bee removed the katanas from Naruto's jacket, freeing him. Once Naruto was free, they all surrounded him. "Okay, little squirt, let's hear it and tell us the beef, yo," spoke Killer Bee. "What? Naruto asked, who didn't understand what Killer Bee was saying because of his bad rapping. At this, Amoe just sighed and decided to translate for Naruto, since it wasn't uncommon for people to be unable to understand his sensei due to his bad rapping and rhyming. He was asking, who are you and why were you spying on us? My name is Naruto, replied the blonde, and I wasn't spying, I was only looking, since I sensed 2 large chakra signatures nearby when I was training and I decided to see who it was. Yeah right, Kuro scoffed, not believing Naruto. It's true, Naruto replied angrily, since he didn't like being called a liar when he wasn't. Okay fine, let's say we do believe you, then tell us, where do you come from? What shinobi village are you with? Yugito asked. I'm not from a shinobi village, and answered Naruto, since technically it was true since he wasn't official with any shinobi village. See, he's lying to us and quat, Kaoru accused as she pointed at Naruto. I'm not lying, Naruto said angrily while he glared at Kaoru, who glared back at him. If you are not from a shinobi village, then how is it that you were able to do ninjutsu, and how is it that you were able to move and fight like us? The only way you could, is if you had shinobi training like us, Samui said with a neutral face. Ha, try and get out of that one, Kaoru thought with a triumphant smirk. That's because my mother used to be a shinobi, but retired and left her village after I was born and trained my one-san and me, when we were old enough to be trained in the shinobi arts, Naruto answered, since even though it was a lie it was also half true. And who's your mom's? Killer Bee asked. She the local healer here. My Ka-chan along with my one-san and me as well as our pet pig Tonton go with her as she travels around healing people, Naruto answered. Oh come on, you don't believe him, do you? Kaoru said in disbelief as she didn't believe a word Naruto was saying. I don't know, Kaoru, I think he might actually be telling the truth, Amoe said. Since when I was getting supplies from the local town, I heard some of the local villagers talking about a female healer that arrived in the village 2 months ago, as well as how she traveled around with her family, a young girl in her mid-20s. A young boy that actually kinds of fits Naruto's description. I also heard that she had a pet pig. I even saw the healer and her daughter distance when she was healing a woman. You can't be serious, they could all be spies sent to either kill us or spy on us, Kaoru cried in disbelief that her teammates and her sensei were believing Naruto's story. If they were sent to kill us, then why did they just send Naruto? Amoe asked. He could have been a scout to watch us and the report back to them later, Kaoru replied. Then how did they know we would come here? Since they've been here for 2 months, before Sensei even planned to take us on a training trip, Amoe replied. Kaoru of course had no answer to that, since there was no way they could have known they would come here. Fine then, but that still doesn't mean he isn't some enemy shinobi, he could be just using a ruse to throw us off, Kaoru retorted, trying to find reason to prove that Naruto was an enemy and needed to be dealt with. At this, Amoe just sighed and said, weren't you listening? I told you I heard that she had a son whose description matches Naruto's, but if you want proof, fine. Amoe then turned to Naruto and asked him to describe them to them, which he did perfectly. 3, which caused Kaoru to scowl angrily when Amoe confirmed Naruto's description. Very well then, if it is true that your mother is a traveling healer, then tell us, what village did she come from? Samui asked, as like Kaoru she wasn't fully convinced by Naruto's story. Since I find it strange that any shinobi village would allow one of their shinobi to simply retire and leave with her family. This caused Kaoru to smile at having some support and believing that she had Naruto caught now. My mother came from Yugakure no Sato, village hidden in hot water, since the village has disarmed itself several years ago to become a hot spring resort and they don't need or want any ninjas anymore. When that happened, my mother left the village since she used to be a medic nin and her skill weren't really needed there anymore. So she decided to travel around offering her skill to people. Naruto lied. When Kaoru heard this she scowled, believing that Naruto had just slipped out of that one, which was true. At the same time Naruto silently congratulated himself on thinking up such a good and believable story on the spot, since he had remembered when he studied the different shinobi villages, that a few years back, not too long after the end of the Third Shinobi World War, Yugakure began to disarm itself as a shinobi village and became a hot spring resort, thanks to the large number of hot springs there. The story was so believable that Killer Bee and even Samui and Amoe believed it, since they knew all about Yugakure and how it wasn't really a shinobi village anymore, so it would make sense for its remaining shinobi to leave it and search new employment. Fine then, if you are really the son of a former medic nin, then she must have taught you some medical ninjutsu, Yugito said. Yes, she did. Then prove who you say you are by healing the wounds you gave Samui and me, Yugito said, to see if he really was just the son of a healer. Fine, I will, answered Naruto, where he then began healing the small wounds that he had given Samui and Yugito with little trouble. After he was done, he had pretty much convinced Killer Bee, Amoe as well as Samui and Yugito, since the way he healed them without any trouble proved that he was a skilled healer. The only person that wasn't convinced was Kaoru, who still held a grudge against Naruto for defeating her and capturing her in such a humiliating manner. Okay then Squirt, you answered what for, but now spill on how you do Kage Bushin and use a sealing technique, yo, Killer Bee asked, which got a confused look from both Naruto and his students. He then explained that the Kage Bushin was a forbidden B rank clone jutsu that jonins were only supposed to know and that it was real and didn't rely on an elemental affinity. He then told him that he saw Naruto use a seal to disrupt the Yugito chakra for a few moments. When Kaoru heard this, she thought that they had finally caught Naruto out and proven he was a liar. Thinking quickly, Naruto told them that his mother had given him the seal in case he was in danger and needed something to help him if he was in a fighting against a missing nin. He then went on to explain the reason he knew the Kage Bushin was because his mother taught him it. He told them that she taught him it since she knew he had large chakra reverses and could handle creating several clones. Thankfully Killer Bee and the others, except for Kaoru, believed his excuse since it was possible considering how well Naruto had fought and lasted against them. But still Kaoru wasn't about to give up and came up with another reason to not trust Naruto. Fine, but still, why were you watching us? If you really are not a shinobi from another village like you claim, then why would you spy on us? I told you when I was training by myself in the forest I felt your chakra signatures and I was curious as to who you were. That's all, Naruto replied. And why were you training in the forest by yourself? Samui asked. I sometimes like to train by myself, Naruto said simply. But that still doesn't explain why you were watching us? If you were just curious then you would have just left as soon you had seen us, Yugito said. Alright fine, I was also curious as to what your sensei was teaching, since I never see Kenjutsu before except from what I read in books. So when I saw what you were all doing I decided to watch, Naruto answered since it was true as he was interested in Kenjutsu. At this Kaoru just scoffed again, not believing a word of what Naruto said. Well, if you what roll with the big dogs then let's bow wow and see what you got, wow, said Killer Bee. Sensei, you can't be serious, Kaoru cried in disbelief while the rest of her teammates including Samui looked surprised. What did he just say? Asked Naruto, not understanding Killer Bee bad rapping. Why not? The kid got style, he got pias, and gusto to match yo, and he totally pwned all of you, Killer Bee replied with a cheesy smirk while he did his rap dance, which annoyed his students for reminding them of their defeats and because of his stupid rhymes and rapping. Can someone please tell me what you're all talking about as I can barely understand what he is saying, asked a annoyed Naruto. Sensei just said that if you're interested in Kenjutsu and if you want to learn then you can train with us if you want, and that is if you can keep up, Yugito answered, who could still not believe that her sensei was allowing a boy whom they had just met and knew little to nothing about to train with them. Sensei, you can be serious? We can't just let him join us, and besides, what if this some kind of plot to kill us, and what if he's lying? We don't know anything about this kid, Kaoru said angrily. Hey, don't call me just a kid, I'm not that much younger than you, 5, besides I was good enough to beat all of you. Also, I wasn't the one who was left hanging up in a tree in a net like a sack of potatoes, Naruto said, and smirked when he saw Kaoru's face turns red from anger and humiliation when she reminded how Naruto defeated her. That still doesn't say you're not lying or trying to trick us, Kaoru accused. Before Naruto could respond, Killer Bee interrupted him. The squirt doesn't lie, he's not the type. His eyes don't lie and I like his face. Huh? Said Naruto as he wasn't sure if Killer Bee was complimenting him or not. He said that he believes you and that you have a trusting face and that you don't seem the type to lie or do something behind another person's back, and he kinds of like you, Amoe translated for the blonde boy. Oh, thanks. Oh, alrighty then, let's get this party started and get down to the beat down, said Killer Bee. I'm guessing he's saying that we can start training now. Right? Naruto guessed, where he got a nod from Amoe and the others. Come on you slow pokes, you're slower than post, Killer Bee cried as he told them to hurry up. Does he always talk like that? Naruto asked, to which Amoe and the girls all nodded sadly, where they all followed after Killer Bee to train. For the next 2 weeks Naruto trained with the Kumo Jinan under Killer Bee, where he would leave his house in the early morning to go into the forest, telling his mother and Shizune that he was going off to train by himself in the forest. Neither Tsunade nor Shizune knew that Naruto was secretly training with a group of shinobi from Kumo, since he knew that if his mother or Shizune knew about this, they would freak out and forbid him from seeing them and he wouldn't be able to train with them. During those 2 weeks Naruto got to know the others better. He found Killer Bee to be a funny enough person, although he did find him weird with always trying to rap and rhyme and do it badly. He also learned that Killer Bee demanded respect from his students and others, where he told Naruto to call him either Jinchuriki-sama or Hachibi-sama. It was then that Naruto learned that both Killer Bee and Yugito were Jinchurikis. He learned this since Killer Bee made no secret that he had the Hachibi no Kyogyu, the 8-tailed ox, seal inside him, and Naruto figured out that Yugito was one since it explained the weird chakra he saw her fight with. Yugito and the other were of course surprised when Naruto asked her if she was one, where he told them how he realized it, which of course impressed Amoe and the others at how Naruto was able to figure it out, after which they then told Naruto that Yugito had the Nibi no Bacon Echo, two-tailed monster cat, inside her. Naruto also became good friends with Amoe, where they found that they had a good bit in common. Since for example both of them were nearly always surrounded by girls. Naruto was nearly always with his mother, Shizune and Tonton, girl pig, while Amoe was nearly always with Yugito, Samui, and Kaoru. Hence it was nice for both of them to have some male companionship around their own age. Despite their rocky start, Naruto and Yugito got along okay and developed a sort of rivalry and respected one another. They would often spar against one another in taijutsu, where Naruto usually won, thanks to his advanced training with his mother, and in kenjutsu, where Yugito always won since Naruto was only learning. When Naruto asked Amoe why Yugito was always challenging him to spar against her, Amoe explained to him that Yugito was the strongest Jonin in their village. She was top of their class in nearly everything, where the only other Jonin that could rival her was Samui, who was the second best Jonin, but no one could actually beat her in a fight. So in Yugito's mind, Naruto is the only person she deems worthy of being her rival and the only person around her own age group that can challenge her and who she wants to beat in a fair fight. When Naruto heard this, he could only sigh and think about another fine mess he got himself into. Although he had to admit it could have been worse. She could have been some weird girl or guy with bushy eyebrows and wearing a spandex suit and shouting at the top of his or her voice all the time. The only person on the team that he seemingly couldn't get along with was Kaoru, as she still held a grudge against Naruto for beating her and hanging her up a tree, where she had to be rescued by her sensei. It also didn't help the fact that she was often remained of her defeat and humiliation by both her sensei and her teammates, as well as the fact that she did not trust Naruto, as she still thought he was a spy or an enemy shinobi. But for the most part she mainly ignored Naruto and only acknowledged him when she had to, although she still kept a close eye on him in case he would try anything, and so that she would be ready for it if he did. Finally then there was Samui, where despite the awkward position that she and Naruto ended up together, the blonde boy had no problem with her, as she basically treated him coldly, like everyone else, but neutrally, as if the incident never happened. At least until when Samui had asked Naruto for help in bringing water back to the camp from a nearby stream. When they went to the stream, Samui had suddenly stopped and turned around to face Naruto and comforted him about what had happened. Samui then proceeded to tell Naruto that she was willing to ignore the incident between them, as well as forget that it ever happened if Naruto was willing. Naturally Naruto was more than willing, although there were times when he found it hard to forget it, especially whenever he saw Samui and had to fight the urge to blush red when he thought of it. Once they both agreed to forget the incident, Samui also then told him that should he ever mention the incident to anyone, she would castrate him with a dull and rusty kunai and do several other things that would result in Naruto having a very slow and painful death. Once she had finished telling what she would do to him, Naruto could not help but start to sweat a little and gulp, as well as fight the urge to cover himself, where he nodded his head several times very quickly, telling her that he understood perfectly. Unfortunately, as they were having their private conversation, Amoe had been nearby gathering wood for the campfire, where he had heard the whole conversation as well as the incident between Naruto and Samui. Once they left, he quickly raced back the camp and told his sensei and the other girls what had happened between Naruto and Samui. When the two got back, they were comforted with a screaming Kaoru, who was accusing them of being intimate, while Yugito just stood back and looked at them with a raised eyebrow, not knowing how to react to the whole situation. While Killer Bee stood back with Amoe chuckling away and singing bad rhymes about young love blossoming between Naruto and Samui, while Amoe just smirked and enjoyed the show and helped to tease the two. He also even congratulated Naruto on being the only boy to ever cope a feel of Samui and survive, as many boys had tried to back at Kumo and all failed with very bad results, since Samui was Kumo's proverbial ice queen due to her cold appearance and attitude. Naruto had tried to explain exactly what had happened and denied that there was anything between him and Samui, but they ignored his explanation, where Killer Bee and Amoe continued to tease them, while Kaoru continued to shout at them. This continued until Samui finally had enough, as she had remained calm and emotionless during the whole event. She then quickly told Kaoru to shut up with a sharp and cold tone of voice, which silenced the dark-skinned girl Kaoru. She then silenced Killer Bee and Amoe, teasing with a cold and frosty glare that made both men shut up and made them shiver slightly. After which she then went over to Amoe and grabbed onto his arm and dragged him behind a few trees a bit away from the camp, and did not appear until 10 minutes later, where Samui came out behind the trees and went over to the campfire to start cooking their lunch. She was soon followed by Amoe, who came out from behind the trees and as white as a ghost and shaking with fear. When Naruto and the others asked what happened, Amoe looked over at Samui, who just gave him a cold look and refused to answer, as if he was too terrified to even say what she had said to him. Seeing this, Killer Bee, Naruto and the others decided to leave well enough alone and not rattle the cage of the tiger known as Samui. 2 weeks after meeting Naruto, Killer Bee decided it was time for his students and him to head back home to Kumo, since he knew that his brother would start to worry soon and probably send every shinobi to look for them. Killer Bee was currently watching Yugito and Naruto spar with their katanas, 6, against one another while not too far away. Samui was sparing against both Amoe and Kairo, where despite being outnumbered, was winning. As Killer Bee watched them spar, the elder man could not help but be impressed with how quickly Naruto had grasped the basics of Kenjutsu. Although he was still a long way off for being at Yugito's, Samui's or any of the others' levels in Kenjutsu, he had still made impressive steps in learning it. In just 2 weeks, Killer Bee had also given him some tips on to improve his taijutsu. Once Naruto explained that he was trying to create his own one, which greatly impressed Killer Bee further. Killer Bee also could tell that Naruto would have been quite a shinobi one day if he was with a shinobi village, since he always had an eye for seeing talent when he saw it in someone, and he could see that Naruto had a lot of it. So much so that when Naruto left for home, Killer Bee followed him, just to make sure that Naruto was telling the truth about himself. Although stealth wasn't Killer Bee's specialty, he was still skilled enough to keep hidden and not let Naruto notice him. He then followed Naruto to a small house at the edge of the village, where from a distance he saw Naruto enter it. Later on he saw Naruto come out to greet his mother and sister and their pet pig when they came home, and saw that they were indeed the healers that Amoe described to him, proving that Naruto spoke the truth. In a way, Killer Bee was also disappointed that Naruto was not born in Kumo, or at the very least in Kaminari no Kuni, Lightning Country, where he would have been accepted as one on the spot. Since talented kids like Naruto weren't very common, and if he was with Kumo, Killer Bee was certain Naruto would have risen high there. He was almost tempted to bring Naruto with him to Kumo and try and have joined Kumo, but he knew his brother would never accept a kid with shinobi training that was from another country regardless of how skilled he was, since his brother was paranoid when it came to Kumo's safety and would most likely fear that Naruto was a spy from another village. Not to mention that if he found out that Naruto had defeated Yugito, when she used the Nibi's chakra, he would most likely order Naruto to be killed, fearing that he would be a future threat to the village, and he didn't want that to happen to Naruto or his family, which was why he wasn't going to mention Naruto to his brother when he got home and have his students swear not to mention Naruto either. After a while, Killer Bee had Naruto and the others stop their sparring matches and to come over to him, where he then told them that they would be leaving tomorrow morning to head back to Kumo. When he told them, he could see the disappointed look on Naruto's face, since Naruto had told them that he didn't really have many real friends since he traveled so much with his family from one country to the other. Killer Bee could also see that even Amoe was a bit saddened, as well as Yugito when she frowned slightly. Kairo and Samui on the other hand kept a neutral expression on their faces, so to keep everyone else from knowing how they felt about the news. Deciding not to leave without giving Naruto a few parting gifts, Killer Bee took out a small paper note out of his pouch and handed it to Naruto, who had a confused look on his face. "What a piece of paper?" Naruto asked as he held it up, but before Killer Bee could explain what it really was, Yugito spoke up, knowing how her sensei would explain it in one of his bad rhymes. "That is not an ordinary piece of paper, it is a paper made from a special type of tree, which is grown and fed with chakra. They are used in products that react to even the slightest hint of chakra in any number of ways, depending on the nature latent in the chakra. This allows a person to know what nature affinity they have." "Do you know about nature affinities?" Yugito asked, where Naruto just nodded, since his mother had told him all about nature affinity and how everyone had at least one natural nature affinity and could learn others if they needed. Naruto also knew his affinity already, since he had the Makuten bloodline and his mother had told him that Makuten was based on combining earth and water-based chakra to create wood. But he decided to play dumb, since he had heard of these cards from his mother and they were only supplied to shinobi from shinobi villages, since they are so hard grown, where if he told them he already knew his affinity it would raise unwanted questions. "Good, just so you know, all you have to do is place your hand on the paper and channel a bit of your chakra to it, and it will react to whatever affinity you have. So if you have an affinity to fire, the paper will ignite and turn to ash. If you have an affinity to water, the paper will become damp. If you have an affinity to earth, it will turn to dirt. If you have an affinity to lightning, the paper will crumple up, and if you have an affinity to wine, the paper will split in two," explained Yugito. Naruto nodded his head as he already understood it all and then channeled a small bit of his chakra into the paper. Naturally, Naruto said he would, although in reality he knew he wouldn't, since his mother wouldn't go near any shinobi village for fear of their exposure. "I suggest that you stay alive, Naruto-san, and that you get stronger, since I promise I will be stronger next time we meet again, and the next time we fight the outcome will be very different," Yugito said. At this, Naruto smirked, since he was used to Yugito saying stuff like this. "Sure thing, Yugito, and you can expect a tougher fight as well when we do fight again." Naturally, Yugito smirked at this and said she would look forward to the challenge. Samui for her part kept her face emotionless and neutral as always, but offered her hand and said a simple goodbye, Naruto-san, which Naruto took her hand and shook it and said a friendly goodbye to her. Kairo simple nodded her head and grunted out a goodbye, since she still didn't fully trust Naruto and still held a slight grudge against him for beating her, although despite that, she did think he was an okay person. Killer Bee said goodbye to Naruto and was going into one of his long rhymes, but before he could even get halfway, Yugito and Samui each grabbed one of their sensei's ears and started to pull them, causing him to yell in pain and telling them to stop, so that they could get going. At this, Naruto could only laugh and was going to miss seeing this kind of stuff with them. Eventually though, the 5 Kumo nins jumped into the treetops, where they waved goodbye to Naruto one more time and then disappeared into the trees. After which Naruto then went home, where his walk through the forest his thoughts were filled about Yugito and the others, who he wondered if he would ever see again, and if so, where would he? Chapter 8 Discovery. 3 months after meeting Killer Bee and the others, Naruto and his mother along with Shizune and Tonton were traveling along a forest road in Hino-kun, Fire Country. They were currently on their way to the Fire Daimyo's country estate outside the capital of Hino-kunai. Tsunade had been contacted by the Sandaime Hokage through her slug summons. The Sandaime had informed her that the daimyo's son and heir was gravely ill and none of the daimyo's doctors could do anything to help him. Hence the daimyo had asked the Sandaime if he could make contact with Tsunade and send word to her that he needed her help. When Tsunade had heard this, she had been concerned about keeping Naruto's existence a secret, since if she arrived in the capital with Naruto even in disguise, people may discover that Naruto was her son, hence all their hiding would have been for nothing. She also knew that she could not say no, since for one reason she was a healer and she was swore to help those who were ill or injured and who asked for help, while the other being that if she said no and Fire Daimyo's son died, the repercussion to both her and Konoha would be unpleasant, to say the very least. So she decided to do the only thing she could. She told the Sandaime to tell the Fire Daimyo that she would help his son, but he would have to bring his son to his private country estate outside the capital and only have a handful of his most trusted and loyal guards and servants there. When the Sandaime told the Fire Daimyo of Suan's condition, he agreed to them immediately, although he was curious as to Tsunade's conditions. As the group neared the estate, they saw several of the Fire Daimyo's private guards along with 2 fire samurai dressed in crimson red armor with their 4 katanas on each of their sides and masks. Once the samurai and guards saw them coming and confirmed who they were, they allowed them to enter through the main gateway of the estate. As they walked through the estate, they saw the large gardens that were well trimmed and the clear pools of water with fish swimming in them and the clean white marble pathways that they were walking on. After climbing a few dozen steps and crossing a small bridge that went over a small clear stream with more fish in it, they came face to face with the large door of the main building of the estate, where the Fire Daimyo and his son were waiting for them. When they entered the main part of the estate, where they met a servant, who then led them through the mansion hallway and brought them to a large empty room where they sat and waited for the Fire Daimyo to arrive. As they sat down, Naruto was unusually quiet. This was because Tsunade had told him he had to be on his best behavior as he was about to meet the ruler of Hino-kunai, and although he was fairly easygoing person, he still needed to be respectful, for they did not need to be on the bad side of a daimyo. Naruto wore the same kind of outfit that he wore when he met Killer Bee and his team, with the only new thing being different from it was that he carried the katana that Killer Bee gave him on his back, with a sling going across his chest to keep the sword on his back. When Tsunade saw Naruto with the sword, she had asked him where he had gotten it along with the Kenjutsu scrolls. Fortunately, Naruto had come up with a believable excuse, where he told her that he had met a traveling merchant that was passing through town. He then told her that he saw the sword and the scrolls, and to her how the man gave him a good offer on both the sword and the scrolls and bought them from him with some money that he had saving. Naruto had hated lying to his mother, but he knew that if he told her the truth she would go berserk and take away the sword and scroll from him, where he would never be able to get stronger with them. Tsunade had believed the answer, as there was little reason to doubt him, and was happy at last to see Naruto trying to get stronger. During the following months after getting the sword, Naruto had improved steadily and was getting better and better with using the sword. He often spared against his clone so that he could learn quicker and learn from his mistakes, whether he beat his clone or his clone beat him. Soon enough the Fire Daimyo entered the room with 4 royal guards and 2 armed samurai wearing the same kind of armor that the samurai they saw at the gate. The guards and the positioned themselves around the Fire Daimyo while the samurai sat on their knees, where one sat on the Fire Daimyo's far front left while the other sat on the Fire Daimyo's far front right, so that if Tsunade or the others tried to attack the Fire Daimyo, they could intercept them before they could reach the Fire Daimyo. The Fire Daimyo himself was a man in his mid to late 50s. He was a thin and tall man with a narrow face. Once the Fire Daimyo was seated in front of Tsunade and the others, he then spoke in a pleasant, friendly and welcoming voice. "Greetings, Tsunade-san. I am very grateful that you came to help my son, as he is in desperate need your help." "Of course, Daimyo Dono, I will do whatever I can to help you," replied Tsunade respectfully. "Thank you," said the Fire Daimyo, where he then turned to look at Shizune, who was holding Tonton in her arms and was on Tsunade left. "And this must be you, apprentice Shizune, if I'm not very much mistaken," said the Fire Daimyo. "Hi, it is an honor to meet you, Daimyo Dono," spoke Shizune respectfully and did a slight bow with the Fire Daimyo waved his hand politely saying she did not need to and smiled slightly. He then turned and looked over to Naruto, who was sitting on Tsunade's right. But I am unfamiliar as to who this young boy next to you, is he another student of yours, that you took in? Asked the fire daimyo. At this question Tsunade became hesitant to answer. Although she had expected it and knew what she needed to say, she was still hesitant to answer it, as she knew she may be putting Naruto's life in danger, where all the years that they have been hiding would have been for nothing. Before I answer your question, Daimyo Dono, did the Hokage tell you all of the conditions that had to be made when helping your son? Asked Tsunade cautiously, as she was unsure that she could trust the men in the room as well as the others in the estate. Yes, I have. I have only brought a group of about 30 servants, 20 royal guards and 12 of my samurai here. I trust them all without question, as they have all served me loyally for many years, replied the fire daimyo with his eyebrow slightly risen up. Since when he first heard Tsunade's condition from the Sandaime, he was curious as to why Tsunade had asked for these conditions. Now that she was here with an unknown boy, his curiosity was piqued even more, since it was oblivious that Tsunade's cautious nature was linked to the young boy next to her. At this Tsunade sighed and remained quiet for a minute or two, preparing herself for what she had to say. The boy next to me, Daimyo Dono, is named Naruto. Senju Naruto to be more precise, and he is my son, said Tsunade. When the fire daimyo heard this, he was naturally shocked to say the least, where both his eyebrows went right up into the air where they were hidden behind his headdress that he was wearing. Even the fire daimyo's guards and samurai were equally shocked at the news that Tsunade of the Sannin had a child. Once the fire daimyo got over his shock, he began to chuckle. My, this is quite a shock. I'm surprised that I'm only learning this now and not years ago. Since I would have expected news as monumental as this to be no long by now. That is because no one knows that I have had a child, Daimyo Dono. Very few people even know this, and I would like it to be kept this way if you will, Daimyo Dono, spoke Tsunade, which caused the daimyo to raise his eyebrows again curiously. Oh! And may I ask why you wish to keep such happy news hidden from everyone, especially from Konoha? Since I would be certain that the people as well as the ninjas there would be overjoyed at the news that you had a son and that your clan line can still continue on, asked the daimyo. The reason being, Daimyo Dono, is that there are many enemies outside Konoha who would like nothing more than to attack my son to hurt me or to use him for their own means. As to why Konoha does not know is simply because I wanted my son to be raised like a normal child and not be spoiled by the village simply because he is my son and is the heir to my clan, replied Tsunade. At this news the fire daimyo hummed a bit and brought his hand up to his chin as he was thinking over to Tsunade, reasoning. Yes, I can understand your reasoning, Tsunade, and you do have the right to how you raise your own child. Also, may I assume that it is the reason behind you wanting me to bring my son here and have only my most trusted people with me, so to ensure that his existence remains secret, asked the fire daimyo, to which Tsunade nodded too. Very well then, Tsunade, if you treat my son and ensure that he becomes well again, then I promise you that this news shall not be mentioned to anyone outside this estate and that your secret will be kept, where I will tell no one, and I will have my people here swear never to reveal it to anyone until it is announced by you, spoke the fire daimyo. Thank you, Daimyo Dono, replied Tsunade gratefully, after which the fire daimyo then turned to look over to Naruto. I am honored to meet the son of Tsunade as well as the descendant of both the Shodaime Hokage and the Nidaime Hokage and heir to the Senju clan, spoke the fire daimyo respectfully. Thanks, Oji-san, old man, it nice to meet you too, said Naruto friendly like. When the others in the room heard this, their reactions varied. The samurai and the guards tensed up and glared at the boy for speaking to their daimyo in such a disrespectful manner. Shizune was about ready to have a panic attack for what Naruto had said, since they could be all killed for what Naruto had just said. While Tsunade was cursing her son for being such a knucklehead at times like this, she had told him a dozen times to be respectful to the fire daimyo. But it seemed it didn't sink it yet, and she blamed Jiraiya influence over Naruto for this, since she should have known that Jiraiya idiocies was contagious, since Jiraiya was like that when they were younger. Naruto, be more respectful to the fire daimyo, cried Tsunade angrily, where she then turned to the fire daimyo. Daimyo Dono, please forgive my son for what he said, he's only a boy said Tsunade, quickly trying to avoid the fire daimyo anger on her son. But before she could finish apologizing for Naruto calling him old man, she heard the fire daimyo laughing in amusement. Well, now it has been quite some time since I've been addressed by such a common title, spoke the fire daimyo with amusement. Daimyo Dono? Said one of the samurai, before the daimyo held out his hand telling the samurai to settle down. It's quite alright, I rather enjoy be called by a common title from time to time, it's refreshing, since I get rather tired of all these official titles, said the fire daimyo as he smiled down at Naruto. Your son reminds me a bit of your old teammate Jiraiya, Tsunade, and I always did like him, smiled the fire daimyo. Not too much, I hope, thought Tsunade, since if her son turned into a super pervert like Jiraiya, then she would torture and kill him in ways that would even horrify their old teammate Orochimaru. Deciding to change the subject, Tsunade decided to get down to business. "Daimyo Dono, perhaps we should go to your son and see what I can do for him," and quat. The daimyo quickly became serious and nodded his head and signaled for Tsunade and Shizune to come with him out the room. As they left the room, Tsunade turned to Naruto. "Naruto, why don't you go and train a little in the garden, while Shizune and I help the daimyo's son," and quat. But to her surprise, Naruto shook his head and spoke. "Ka-chan, I don't really feel much like training today. Would it be okay if I go find something to read?" asked Naruto. This of course surprised Tsunade, since Naruto usually enjoyed training, but decided that it wasn't too strange either, since Naruto did enjoy reading. She then turned to the fire daimyo who had stopped with his guards and waited on her and Shizune. "Excuse me, Daimyo Dono, but do you perhaps have a library here in your estate, since Naruto enjoys reading and I think he would enjoy having something new to read," and quat. At this the daimyo smiled. "Of course, we have one of the largest collections of books and scrolls in Hai no Kuni here on this estate. I'm certain he would find something to his liking," and quat. Where he then signaled to one of his servants that was nearby and called him over and told him to show Naruto where the library was. With Naruto, soon enough the servant led Naruto to the library. When he entered the library, he could not believe what he saw. The library itself was a massive room, where the bookshelves went almost to the ceiling, and they were all filled with hundreds if not thousands of books and scrolls. The bookshelves were all along the walls and filled to the brim with books and scrolls. There were even staircases to allow someone to go to the different levels on the walls to get books, as well as ladders to climb. Naruto could also see several writing desks and chairs for people to sit on and read. Naruto could not believe the number of books and scrolls he was seeing. He did not think so many books and scrolls could all be in one place. The servant then showed Naruto the index book where all the different books and scrolls were listed and the different areas they covered, as well as find out what books covered what type of information a person was looking for. It even said what row and section which book was in so that the book could be found easily. The servant then asked Naruto if he needed help finding a book that he might like, but Naruto told him he would be fine, after which the servant then left Naruto to his own devices. Once the servant had left, Naruto then opened the index book to look up information on something that he'd been wondering about for the past 3 months. After a few minutes he found what he had been looking for and found what books had the information was looking for. For the next 10 minutes Naruto went to different parts of the library to get the books that he wanted. When he was finished, he had about a dozen books on a nearby reading table. He then opened up one of the large books called History of the Shinobi World, where he then quickly scanned the book and found the chapter he was looking for, which was called Bijus, Tailed Beasts, and Jinchurikis, Power of Human Sacrifice, and quat. Naruto had become interested in the Bijus since the most well-known abilities of his Makuten powers was the ability to suppress the powers of the Biju and control them. He also became interested in Jinchuriki after meeting Killer Bee and Yugito, since they were both Jinchurikis and they both held demons that his ancestor defeated and captured. For the next few hours Naruto learned as much as he could about Jinchurikis and the demons they held, as well as the connection they had to Naruto's clan. During that time Naruto learned that Bijus were large, living forms of chakra, sometimes referred to as Chakura no Bakemono, chakra monsters, giving them power that far outmatches most shinobis. However, he also learned that even with their immense strength it was tempered due to their bestial nature, which restricts them from being intelligent enough to use it effectively. But when the Bijus are sealed into humans who are called Jinchurikis, they are able to benefit from the knowledge of their hosts, giving them the ability to speak and better utilize their powers. It was after learning this that Naruto discovered how Jinchurikis came into existence. He had learned that when his ancestor Senju Hashirama, the Shodaime Hokage, the first Hokage, had captured 8 of the 9 Bijus using his Makuten, would release techniques. His ancestor spread them to the other, newly formed villages: the Iwagakur, the Hidden Stone, the Kirigakur, the Hidden Mist, the Sunagakur, the Hidden Sand, the Takigakur, the Hidden Waterfall, and the Kumagakur, the Hidden Cloud, in an attempt to maintain peace and equalize the powers between the shinobi nations. Naruto learned that the Ichibi no Shukaku, the one-tailed Shukaku, was sent to Sunagakur, the Nanabi no Kabutamoshi, the seven-tailed horned beetle, was sent to Takigakur, the Sanbi no Kyodegame, the three-tailed giant turtle, and the Rakubi no Namekuji, the six-tailed slug, were sent to Kirigakur. The Gobi no Arukama, the five-tailed dolphin horse, and the Inbi no Saru, the four-tailed monkey, were sent to Iwagakur, and the Nibi no Bakoneko, two-tailed monster cat, and the Hachibi no Kyogyu, eight-tailed giant ox, were sent to Kumagakur, while the Kyubi no Yoko, nine-tailed demon fox, remained free, as it was never caught by the Shodaime Hokage, although he did defeated it when he fought Uchiha Madara, who had the Kyubi under his control, thanks to the power of his Mangekyo Sharingan. But the Kyubi was later on killed by the Yondaime Hokage, the fourth Hokage, when it attacked Konoha 10 years ago. Unfortunately, giving each village a Biju did not stop the outbreak of the First Great Shinobi World War, where both he and Naruto's other ancestor Senju Tobirama, the Nidaime Hokage, the second Hokage, died during it, where after his death the other shinobi nations discovered that they couldn't control the Bijou by themselves and the beast began to run wild along the elemental continent. The shinobi nations then decided that the only way they could stop them and still use their powers was to seal them into humans, where they created Jinchurikis, since to seal the demon into a human cost another their life, whether it be their sealer or someone else. Naruto then learned that when the person is made into a Jinchuriki it is when they are very young, so that their bodies can develop to handle the excess chakra they get from their Bijou and handle the changes to their bodies that happens from carrying a certain Bijou. He then learned that one of the things they get from carrying a Bijou is unique abilities that only they can do. The most famous and well-known of these abilities is Ichibi no Shukaku Jinchuriki, ability to manipulate sand. Another noted fact was that all Jinchurikis have certain unique appearance where certain traits from the Bijou would be added to the appearance to the host. For example, the Ichibi no Shukaku Jinchuriki would have dark rings around his eyes. Naruto also sadly learned that in most places except for Kumagakure, Jinchurikis were naturally hated, despised and feared by their own people, making them into outcasts due to people's fears of their demons. As Naruto learned more and more about Jinchurikis and their Bijous, he could not help but feel sympathetic to Jinchurikis for their hard lives and did not feel that they deserved to be treated as outcasts for something that was not their fault. He also could not help but feel somewhat responsible for their plight, since it was his ancestor that inadvertently led to their harsh lives, even though he had given the villages the Bijous to maintain peace in the lands. After a while Naruto decided to find out more about the Kyuubi attack on Konoha, since he found it curious as to how the Yondaime Hokage killed the most powerful of all the Bijous, when his own ancestor the Sundaime Hokage could not with his Makuten powers, where all he could do was seal them away. As Naruto looked through all the records, books and scrolls on the battle against the Kyuubi, he found little to nothing that explained how the Yondaime did it. All that the books, scrolls and records said was that the Yondaime used some kind of powerful forbidden jutsu that he created and that it cost him his life to do it, nothing more. None of them even gave the name of the jutsu that he used to do it. After going through all the records, scroll and books he could, Naruto decided to go at it a different angle, where he might find a clue if he looked up the Yondaime himself and learn as much as he could about him. After tidying up all the books, scrolls and records he had taken out and putting them back where they belonged, he then went back to the index book to get all he could find on the Yondaime Hokage. Although he already knew a lot about the Yondaime, from what he had heard from Jiraiya, since he had taught the Yondaime, there was still much he did not know about him. Once Naruto had gotten all he could on the Yondaime Hokage, he opened up the first book he had found called The World's Greatest Shinobi *S and Quat. As Naruto looked through the book to find what he wanted, he could not help but take note of several other shinobi names and their faces from their pictures on the pages about them, such as his own ancestors Senju Hashirama and Senju Tobirama, his ancestor's greatest rival and nemesis, Uchiha Madara, and his own younger brother Uchiha Izuna, too, as well as Sanshao no Hanzo, Hanzo of the Salamander, the man who had defeated his mother, godfather Jiraiya, and their former teammate Orochimaru, and gave them their title the Densetsu no Sannin, legendary 3 ninja. He also saw his mother's and godfather old sensei Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was known as Shinobi no Kami, god of shinobis, the professor, and the Sandaime Hokage, the 3rd Hokage. After him Naruto saw his mother, his godfather, and their former teammate Orochimaru. He even saw some other people he was familiar with, like Kakuzu of Takigakure, who had fought his ancestor Senju Hashirama. He also noted Chiyo the puppet master, who had a kind of rivalry with his mother. Naruto also saw Killer Bee and his brother E the Yondaime Reikage, along with Yagura the Yondaime Mizukage, who was also a Jinchuriki like Killer Bee and Yugito. Not to mention the Sandaime Kazekage of Suna, as well as Akasuna no Sasori, Sasori of the Red Sand, and the Sandaime Tsuchikage, the 3rd Tsuchikage Ryodanbin no Aniki, Aniki of both scales. But the most notable of them all though were Uchiha Itachi, who was the youngest person mentioned in it since he was only 16 in it, and the Rikudo Sennin, the Sage of the 6 Paths, who was also known as the Shinobi no Kami as well, and was the founder of ninjutsu and the ninja world, as well as the strongest shinobi to ever exist. But at last Naruto finally found the Yondaime Hokage. When Naruto found the Yondaime Hokage, he was shocked beyond belief when he saw the Yondaime's picture, since he had never seen the Yondaime's picture before, and when he saw it, he immediately saw the almost near mirror image of him and the Yondaime, with the expectation of skin color where Naruto's was lighter than the Yondame's, and his hair color was a more lighter shade of blonde like his mother, although his was still brighter than hers. His eyes' shape were also different, but same color, along with a few small minor facial difference. The resemblance was still unmistakable, and it was almost like looking at an older version of himself. For a few minutes Naruto just stared at the photo of the Yondaime. Naruto knew enough about genetics from his medical studies to know that the facial resemblance between him and the Yondaime was no coincidence, since the resemblance was too strong. As Naruto studied the Yondaime face more and more, he became more convinced with what he realized. The Yondaime was his father. Everything fitted the resemblance between him and the Yondaime. The fact that the Yondaime died on the very day he was born, which was what his mother had told him. The fact that Jiraiya was his godfather, since not only was he his mother's teammate but was also his father's sensei. Also the fact that his father had an affinity to wind and lightning. Even though children did not always inherit the same affinities as their parents and could have completely different one, it was still not out of the question that children could still inherit their parents' affinity. Naruto knew he got earth and water from his mother's side, since like with the Uchiha clan being affiliated with fire due to being so proficient in it, the Senju were well known to be affiliated with earth and water. Since the two elements combined to create his great-grandfather Makuten powers, and his great-uncle was known for his high skill in water jutsu. Not to mention his mother had both elements, but still lacked the bloodline to do Makuten, so it made sense that he got his other two elements from his father. The final proof was the fact that when he was younger he remembered 1 or 2 times when Jiraiya was training him, and how Jiraiya had accidentally called him Minato before quickly saying something different to cover up his mistake. At the time Naruto had passed it off as nothing, but now it made sense, since considering the resemblance, it would be only naturally that he would remind Jiraiya of his father when he was younger, since Jiraiya had trained his father. But still some other things did not make sense, the first being, why neither Shizune, Jiraiya nor his mother had told him who his father was, although he could understand their need to keep secret about being the Yondaime's son. Since he knew he had to keep secret about being the son of Tsunade and his Makuten power, but still if he could keep secret about those things, surely he could have kept secret about who his father was. Also the other thing that didn't make sense was the fact that his mother always got angry at the mere mention of his father, since when Naruto asked about his father his mother would get angry and change the subject. At first when he was younger Naruto had thought that she was just sad at the memory of his father dying, but he soon realized that the memory made her angry at that she was angry at his father about something. Naruto pondered over this for a while, trying to think what would make his mother hate his father so much. He knew the Yondaime hadn't abandoned them since he died when Naruto was born, and he knew the Yonadaime hadn't renounced them since no one knew he even existed as either the Yondaime's son or Tsunade's son, let alone both. Besides, from all the things Naruto had heard from Jiraiya and from what he read about him, the Yondaime would never renounce his own child and its mother simply because he was born out of wedlock. As Naruto thought about why more and more, it suddenly came down on him like a ton of bricks. The fact that the Yondaime was able to kill a Bijou when his ancestor could not. The fact that he was born with unusually high amount of chakra for a boy his age, much like with Yugito. The fact that his father died to kill the Kyuubi. The reason as to why he had whisker-shaped birthmarks on each his cheeks and why they disappeared soon after awakening his Makuten powers, and why he was able to heal so quickly and recover so quickly from chakra exhaustion, and why he had never gotten sick in a day in his life. Not to mention why his mother hates the mere mention of his father, since it would now make perfect sense as to why she got so angry at her father, since his father had made him into a Jinchuriki, the Jinchuriki for the Kyuubi no Yoko. It all made perfect sense, since normal people born with perfect chakra control had low levels of chakra, which was why women mostly had perfect chakra control. It also made sense why he healed so quickly and never got sick, as well as recover so quickly from chakra exhaustion, since the Kyuubi was known for having a powerful healing factor, which it showed when it battled his father the Yondaime. Also the markings on his cheeks that looked like whiskers from a cat, dog, or a fox, which disappeared soon after he awakened his Makuten bloodline, since it would make sense that his Makuten powers would suppress certain influences from the Kyuubi. Not to mention it would only be natural that his mother hated his father, since considering the life that most Jinchurikis have had, as well as the life he might have had he stayed in Konoha, and if the people of Konoha knew he was the Jinchuriki for the Kyuubi, chances were he'd be an outcast there as well, which was why Naruto could not help but be slightly angry at his father for making him into a Jinchuriki. Even as Naruto became more convinced with this new revelations now, he still needed to be certain, and from knowing a little about sealing from his lessons with Jiraiya, Naruto knew that there would have to be some kind of seal on his body that would show that he was a Jinchuriki, since a seal that held a Bijou, better yet the strongest of all the 9 Bijous, the Kyuubi, would have to be placed on him to keep it in check. Knowing that the seal would have to be on his upper body, Naruto took off his sword that was on his back, his jacket, and then his shirt, showing a slim but fairly well built upper body for a 10-year-old, which was thanks to all his training. He then went over to a nearby mirror and stood in front of it, since he knew that he would have to release chakra around his body for the seal to show. Since it was obvious that it could only been seen when he released chakra, since he had never seen any kind of seal on his body before. Once Naruto released some of his chakra around his body, he saw a large seal appear on his stomach, confirming what Naruto knew. He was the Jinchuriki for the Kyuubi no Yoko. When Naruto took a better look at the seal, he couldn't make heads or tails of it, since from what little sealing knowledge he knew, Naruto knew that the complexity of the seal was far too advanced for him to understand right now. But he could tell at least it was really strong due to be so complex, and because it was able to hold and contain the Kyuubi, the strongest of the Bijous. After a few minutes, Naruto quickly put his shirt, jacket and sword back on, and then put back all the scrolls and books he had taken, after which, when he was done, He decided to leave the library and get some fresh air since he had a lot on his mind right now and needed to clear his head a little and sort things out. A few minutes later, as Naruto walked down the open hallway that looked out to the garden on his right-hand side, he could see the beauty of the well-maintained garden. Unfortunately, Naruto was too lost in thought of what he had learned and discovered about being the son of the Yondaime and being the Jinchuriki for the Kyuubi to admire it. Naruto was tempted to go find his mother and confront her about what he had discovered and demanded why she, Shizune and Jiraiya never told him. But he decided against it since he knew this wasn't the time or the place for something like this. Also, he knew he had to wait and think up an excuse as to why he was even learning about bijous and learned about Jinchurikis. He knew that if he didn't handle this carefully, then he would have to reveal his meeting with Killer Bee and the others, and that was something that Naruto wanted to keep hidden for now at least. As Naruto thought more about what he was to do, let alone how he should feel about being the host of one of the most powerful and feared creatures in the world and never even know about it until now, he failed to pay attention to his surroundings and what was going on around him, since he crashed into someone who was just coming out from the hallway to his left, where they both fell to the ground, with Naruto on top of the person. "Ow, sorry, my fault, I wasn't paying attention to where I was going," said Naruto, as he then looked to see who he had bumped into. When he looked, he saw that he had crashed into a young girl who looked to be about his age. She had yellowish blonde hair that fell down to her shoulder blades. She had large emerald green eyes and well-sculpted face that was quite pretty for a girl her age. She was just slightly shorter than Naruto and wore a bright pink formal kimono with white oval-shaped spots and sunflower designs decorated on it. As Naruto was about to get off her and help her up, he was suddenly grabbed by the collar and thrown off her and landed on his rear, several feet away from her. When Naruto got back up and looked over to where he bumped into the girl, he saw two men standing over her and helping her up, after which the two men then stood in front of her and glared at Naruto. The first man was a tall tin man wearing a traditional guard's uniform of the royal family of Hino Kunai, with a long katana on his left side. He had blue-black hair and his eyes were icy blue and he had strong sculpted face. The other man was a muscular-built man and wore the same guard's uniform that the other guard wore. He also wore a pair of large sunglasses. The man also had very little hair on his head, as it was mainly bald except for the small mohawk in the shape of a lightning bolt and a muscular face. "Hey, what the hell is the deal?" cried Naruto angrily from being grabbed onto and then being thrown off. "How dare you ask such a question, you filthy vagabond, after you crashed into Rurashioheim, princess, favorite granddaughter of his lordship the fire daimyo, and land on top of her," spoke the Tin Man angrily as he glared at Naruto. "It was an accident, it not like I meant to, besides I said I was sorry," said Naruto while at the same time cursing his bad luck, since of all the people he had to crash into the fire daimyo's granddaughter. "You think that a simple apology is enough for disrespecting Rurashioheim in such a manner? You should be on your hands and knee begging her forgiveness and pray she does not send you to the dungeon for the rest of your life and quat," cried the Tin Man angrily. "Look, I don't care if she is the fire daimyo's granddaughter or even if she was his sister. Neither of us was hurt and I said I was sorry and that should be enough. Besides, there is no way in hell I'm going to go down on my knees and beg," said Naruto as he was starting to lose his cool as these guys were getting on his nerves. "You insolent child, you shall pay for your disrespect," cried the tin guard as he drew his katana and charged forward. Naruto let the man charge at him, and once he was close enough, Naruto quickly ducked under the man's sword slash, where he then grabbed the guard's wrist and twirled around, so that his back was facing the guard. Whereas Naruto twirled around, he twisted the man's wrist, causing him to let go his sword. After which Naruto then took a step back and kicked the man hard in the shin, where he lost his footing, which allowed Naruto to flip the guard forward and causing the guard to land hard on his back when he hit the floor. As soon as the other guard saw what happened to his comrade, he charged forward and drew out his sword. Seeing this, Naruto quickly sidestepped the guard just as he was about to attack him and let him pass him by. At the same time that Naruto let the guard go by him, Naruto stuck out his leg so to trip the guard and making him fall forward and crash head first into a nearby railing. Before either of the guards could pick themselves up off the floor, Naruto quickly made a shadow clone of himself, where he had his clone sit of the tin guard's chest and point a kunai at the guard's face. At the same time, Naruto jumped on the larger man's back and pointed his own kunai at the back of the guard's head. When the two guards felt the kunais, both of them knew they had been defeated, although neither of them could still believe that they had been defeated by a mere boy. This could be especially said for Princess Rurashio, who could not believe that a boy about her own age had defeated both her personal guards Kenryu and Enryu so easily with very little real effort. Before the princess could even try and order Naruto to release her guards, someone else spoke from the other end of the hallway. My, you certainly were speaking the truth, Tsunade, when you said he get himself into interesting situations when Rurashio, Naruto and the two guards named Kenryu and Enryu turned to see who had spoke. They were surprised to see the fire daimyo along with his samurai bodyguards and other royal guards, along with Tsunade, Shizune and Tonton. "Naruto, what do you think you are doing?" asked an annoyed Tsunade. Teaching these guys a lesson in humility and in manners, replied Naruto with a slight scowl, since they had attacked him first and he was only defending himself, so he wasn't going to let these guys get him into trouble for something they started. At his answer, Tsunade could only sign, since her son did have a short temper when people got him angry or annoyed, much like herself. Naruto, please get off them. We don't need you starting trouble here and quat. At this, Naruto scowled slightly but nodded and dispelled his clone and got of the guard he was on. Now then, may I ask what all this commotion is about? Asked the fire daimyo with a bit of amusement in his voice, since it wasn't every day that he saw a young 10-year-old boy take down and defeat two of his best guards, with little to no trouble, and he had to admit it was quite entertaining to watch. My lord is Rurishioheim, and we were on our way to visit her uncle, your other son, Crown Prince Akihito, who, as you know already, is gravely ill. Where on our way this lowly commoner crashed into Rurishioheim and landed on top of her and then insulted her by not apologizing to her and then attacked us, spoke the tin guard named Kenryu. That a lie, cried Naruto. I did apologize, they just got angry because I refused to go on my knees and beg like a dog, and when I refused they attacked me with their swords and I just defended myself and quat. At this, Tsunade narrowed her eyes and glared at the two guards, who could not help but flinch at the look Tsunade was giving them. Is this true? Asked Tsunade as she glared at the two guards, since she would not stand for anyone attacking her son, whether they be Kage or daimyo or any kind of person, and those who foolish did would pay the butcher's bill for doing so. Well, yes, sort of, said Kenryu slightly nervously as he tried to keep his nerve under Tsunade's frightening glare, but still the boy should have bowed down and begged forgiveness for crashing into the princess and for not watching where he was going and disrespecting his betters and quat. At this, Tsunade began to growl and crack her knuckles as she got ready to lay a beat down on the two guards. When the two guards saw this, they began to get very nervous. Deciding to avoid any needless destruction of his home and to avoid his guards from being killed or being beaten to an inch of their lives for a foolish misunderstanding, the fire daimyo decided to intervene and signaled Tsunade to stop. Tsunade-san. If I may, before you go and beat my granddaughter's personal guards, would you please wait and let me explain to them their folly to them and give them a chance to apologize for acting so rashly and foolishly, since they are very loyal and protective to my granddaughter, and it would upset her greatly to lose them and see them hurt, and it would be also very hard to find guards as loyal and proactive to my granddaughter as they are, said the fire daimyo. After a moment or so, Tsunade relented and nodded her head that she would not attack. At this, the fire daimyo then turned to Kenryu and Inryu. Tell me, Kenryu, before you confronted this boy, did you perchance ask his name or who he was? No, my lord, since there was no need to, since it was quite obvious that the boy is a commoner by the way he is dressed. My guess is he's some low-rank ordinary genin from Konoha, spoke Kenryu. At this, Naruto just glared at Kenryu, saying he was some low-rank ordinary genin, since for one thing he wasn't even a genin of Konoha, and he was most definitely not low, since he was skilled enough to defeat them both easily. The fire daimyo of course then smiled, since he was going to enjoy the looks on both guards' faces for what he was about to tell them next. Well then, Kenryu, if you believe that, then I'm afraid you're very much mistaken, since this boy is no low-rank ordinary genin from Konoha, since for one thing he is not even a ninja of Konoha. Also, he is not any ordinary boy either, since this boy is Senju Naruto, son of Tsunade the Slug Princess, member of the Densetsu no Sannin, legendary 3 ninjas, making him the great-grandson of Senju Hashirama, the Shodaime Hokage, first Hokage, and the great-grandnephew of Senju Tobirama, the Nidaime Hokage, second Hokage, and he is the sole heir to the Senju clan, spoke the fire daimyo with a slight smirk at the shocked looks on his granddaughter and her guards' faces. Both Kenryu and Inryu were both naturally shocked, since the Senju clan was the closest thing that Konoha had to royalty, since it was the Senju clan who practically created the village by themselves, along with some small bit of help from their allies the Uchiha clan and several other allied clans. Also, even though the Senju clan weren't really a royal family, they still held with the same respect and reverence that other royal families or noble clans were held in by all shinobi and non-shinobi nations, especially in Hai no Kuni, since everyone knew the close ties that the Senju clan had with Hai no Kuni royal family, as it was the Senju clan who first negotiated the setting up of the first hidden shinobi village in Hai no Kuni. So as far as social ranking was concerned, Naruto held the same social ranking as a visiting prince from another nation. Not to mention, both men were very familiar with Tsunade's infamous reputation and short temper, where both men knew they were in a lot of trouble with her, since they knew that Tsunade would not take well the fact that they tired to attack her son, which would result in very severe repercussions on them from her. When they realized their grave error in judgment, both guards immediately went on their knees and bowed their heads down to Naruto. Forgive us, Senju-sama, for our error in judgment. We deeply apologize for our mistake and beg your forgiveness. We swear never to make the same mistake again, spoke Kenryu as Inryu just kept his head down. Fine, it's okay, you don't need to bow down to me, A simple apology would have been okay, and call me Naruto not Senju-sama, it make me sound like some stuffy spoiled kid, said Naruto as he waved the two that it was okay. Yes of course Naruto-sama, and thank you, spoke Kenryu as he and Ryu bowed down to Naruto again, which just caused him to sigh in annoyance, since he knew that this would be the best he could get from them. Deciding to change the subject from him, Naruto then turned to his mother, Ka-chan, how is the Ojisan son, and will he be okay? Sighing at her son for calling the fire daimyo old man again and ignore the shocked and outraged looks on the princess and her guards' faces, Tsunade decided to answer the question. The prince needs some serious treatment to get over his illness, and I have just given him something to help break his fever, but the illness itself won't be anything that Shizune and I can't handle, although we will have to stay here for a little while, so that we can handle the prince's treatment and help his recovery, but he should be fine soon enough. The fire daimyo was just leading us to the medical room and his herbal room when we saw you with the guards here. Oh exclamation mark dot 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 dot, that good, replied Naruto neutrally, unlike his normal shelf, which caused Tsunade, Shizune and even the fire daimyo to raise their eyebrows in curiosity, as to Naruto's sudden change in attitude from earlier. But before any of them could ask what was wrong with him, Princess Rurishio suddenly spoke up for the first time. Excuse us, but is it true, about we have just heard, that our uncle Akihito will recover, asked Princess Rurishio. 3. Yes Princess, you uncle, she should be fine, replied Tsunade respectfully. Then we thank you on behalf of our uncle. I'm certain my grandfather will reward you well for your services, replied Princess Rurishio before she then made a passing curious glance at Naruto before turning to her guards. Come, we are hungry and would like something sweet to eat, said the princess as she walked away from Tsunade and the other. Yes of course princess, what is it that you would like to eat? Asked Kenryu as he and Ryu quickly got up and followed the princess. Spoilt much? Spoke Naruto as he didn't like the princess' attitude much at how she treated his mother like she were some local second-rate healer that healed someone just for money, when his mother did it as both a favor and because it was the right thing to do. Naruto, cried Tsunade angrily at her son for insulting the fire daimyo's granddaughter right in front of him. Now Tsunade-san, that quite alright, what your son said is not untrue, I'm afraid. I will not deny that my granddaughter is a bit snobbish, spoiled and a bit self-centered, since she has gotten nearly everything she ever wanted from a very young age, but she is still a good and sweet girl at heart, said the fire daimyo. At this Naruto just shrugged, not really caring, before he then turned to his mother. Ka-chan, if it's okay with you, I'm going to train with my sword for a while. Okay Naru-chan, just don't overexert yourself, said Tsunade, to which Naruto just nodded and walked off to the garden to train. A few days later, for the next few days Naruto spent most of his time reading in the library and training by himself, as well as even thinking over what he had learned, since it was still a lot to take in. During that time when they weren't treating the fire daimyo's son, Tsunade and Shizune had helped Naruto in his training, and on more than a few occasions they had asked him what was bothering him, since they could see that something was wrong with him. But when they asked him, Naruto would either say nothing was wrong or would just change the subject. The reason to this was because Naruto did not want to raise the subject to him being the Yondaime's son, as well as the Jinchuriki of the Kyubi no Yoko while on the fire daimyo country estate, since it could cause a scene if someone overheard them talking about it. Also, during those few days Naruto had been unaware that someone had been watching him when he trained. This person was Princess Rurishio, who after meeting Naruto and seeing how he defeated her guards so easily became interested in him. After she had met him, Rurishio decided to learn as much as she could about Naruto and his clan. 2 days after first meeting Naruto, Rurishio discovered little to nothing about Naruto himself, as her guards and her servants could find next to nothing about him, since none of them even knew that Tsunade had a son until he came with her. But despite that, she did learn a great deal about Naruto's ancestry as well as his clan. She learned that his clan were considered the strongest clan in the world before the founding of the hidden villages, and during a time called the Shinobi Clan's Wars, and were still considered by many as the strongest Shinobi clan even despite the fact that there were only 2 members left. She also learned that Naruto came from a long line of powerful shinobis, where his great-grandfather was Senju Hashirama, the main founder of Konoha, as well as the Shodaime Hokage, and was considered the strongest shinobi of his time. Naruto was also the great-grandnephew of the Nidaime Hokage Senju Tobirama, younger brother of Hashirama, and he was considered the strongest shinobi in Konoha of his time when he was the Hokage, while his mother Tsunade was hailed as both the strongest and most beautiful kunoichi in the world, as well as the greatest medical ninja and healer. She was also a member of the Densetsu no Sannin, whose fame and powers were known by all. Altogether, just from his mother's side of the family, Naruto had a great deal of potential, and just as her guard Kenryu had told her, Naruto was basically royalty in Konoha, much like she was here. After learning all this, Rurishio decided she wanted to watch Naruto, as she was curious as to what type of person he was, since despite the fact that he came from noble clan, as noble as a shinobi clan can get in the shinobi world, he did not act like any boy she knew from a noble family. In fact, he acted the complete opposite from them. He hated being called Naruto-sama or Senju-sama by servants. He was polite to everyone, and she had even seen him help a young servant girl pick up broken plates she had dropped when she accidentally tripped. She also saw him go to the kitchen to make his own lunch instead of ordering a servant to do it. It was because of all these things that made Rurashio become more and more curious about him. After a few days of just watching Naruto and after losing her guards again so that she could be alone, she decided to go up to him and speak to him. When she came up to Naruto, who was so focused on training that she did not notice her until she coughed loudly enough so that Naruto would notice her. When Naruto turned around and saw her, he raised one of his eyebrows in curiosity as to why she was here. "Is there something I can help you with, Rurashio-hime?" asked Naruto. "Yes, there is, Naruto-sama. We would like to offer you the distinct honor and privilege of inviting you to have afternoon tea with us now," spoke Rurashio with the high upper-class tone that a person of royalty would often speak with. "That is very kind of you to offer, Rurashio-hime, and I would be very happy to take your offer of tea, but I am in the middle of my training session right now and I would like to finish it first. But in a few hours' time, when I'm finished and I have cleaned up, I would be happy to have tea with you then," said Naruto as he tried to be as polite as possible. Unfortunately, the princess did not take well to Naruto declining her invitation to tea now and to have it later, well, as she found it to be an insult to her, since whenever she wanted something she wanted it done right away and no one had ever refused her anything. "How dare you? You should be honored that we find you worthy of having tea with us. We are the granddaughter of the fire daimyo, and although you may be someone of somewhat noble blood in your speck of a village, you are still not of royal blood. Now I demand that you come with me now before I lose my patience and decide that you are no longer worthy of being in my company," demanded the princess. Naruto simply ignored the princess' demand as he did not wish to deal with the spoilt girl, who although was a year older than him was still like a little child that did not like it when it was refused something. Of course, when the princess saw that Naruto was ignoring her, she got even angrier and started to throw a tantrum, since no one had ever ignored her before, and when Naruto did, it infuriated her. "Are you even listening to us? Do you not even know that with a single word we can have you cast in irons and thrown into the deepest, darkest dungeon for your insolence?" ranted the princess. "Rant all you what, princess. You may be the granddaughter of the fire daimyo, but I highly doubt he put me in a dungeon for simply not doing what you want me to do. Besides, all your ranting proves what I thought you were from when I first met you," scoffed Naruto. "And what's that?" said Rurashio angrily. "It proves that you're nothing more but a spoiled little girl who thinks that just because she's the granddaughter of a powerful daimyo that the world revolves around her and that everyone in it is at her beck and call just because she was lucky even to be born in nobility. I bet you even stayed in this estate your entire life and never even go out of it," sneered Naruto, with just made the princess angrier. "So what if we haven't? Why would we need to go out and mix with you commoners when we have all that we need here? Nobility does not mix with lowly commoners," scoffed the princess. At this, Naruto shook his head, finding Rurashio's belief foolish and almost humorous in a way. "There you go again, just proving me right at how foolish you are. Didn't you ever wonder how royalty like your family ever came to be? No one is born noble. Your own ancestors were merely commoners like everyone else at one point, until they became powerful leaders by getting people to follow them, which is how any noble retain power, since you nobles are only allowed to have the lives you have because of the hard work of other people who you are supposed to lead and help protect and rule. In the real world where people like me live in, you must work hard to get what you want, and I know that spoilt little boys and girls like you, who have been sheltered all their lives in golden palaces and mansions like this, wouldn't survive a single day outside these walls by themselves," said Naruto with a sneer. Princess Rurashio sheeted in rage at Naruto remark. "We see about that exclamation mark ... I show you that I can do anything you can do," cried Rurashio angrily before stomping away. Seeing this, Naruto just shook his head at the foolishness of the princess and decided to forget all about the princess and continue on with his training. 2 hours later, after Naruto had finished his training, he decided to head to the kitchen and get a bite to eat since he was hungry after all of his training. Just when he was about to turn around the corner, two people who were running collided into him as they were turning around the corner. "Ow!" cried Naruto as he rubbed his rear and stood up again. When he looked up, he saw that he collided with Kenryu and Inryu, who were now picking themselves up off the floor. "Hey Kenryu and Inryu, what's the hurry?" asked Naruto when he saw the princess' two personally guards friendly, since he had become friendly enough with the two guards over the past few days despite their rough start. When the two guards saw who they had collided into, they both quickly bowed respectfully to Naruto. "Naruto-sama, forgive us for colliding into you. We are in search of Rurashio-hime, since we have been unable to find for several hours. Have you seen her at all lately?" spoke Kenryu. "Yeah, I saw her about 2 hours ago, but we kind of got into an argument when I told her I was busy training and couldn't have tea with her at the time," spoke Naruto. At this, both guards grew concerned about the princess and were about to start running again to find the princess, but before they could, another servant ran up to them and Naruto holding a piece of torn cloth. "Kenryu-san, and Inryu-san, I have just found this torn piece of Rurashio-hime kimono near hanging from a tree branch next to the estate wall. The princess must have climbed the tree and left the estate, spoke the servant. Damn that stupid stubborn spoiled girl, thought Naruto, since even though he didn't like the princess much he still didn't want her to get hurt, which would happen if they didn't find her soon. We must find immediately before something happens to her, cried Kenryu as he and Ryu were about to head out to the front gate and start looking for her. Wait, cried Naruto, stopping the two men. If you two go out there by yourself you won't find her, since the forest is too big to search by yourselves. You two should try and gather a search party and gather as many people as you can to help search for her. While you two do that I will go search for her myself, since I can cover more ground than you two and I can search more areas than you both, spoke Naruto, which got a confused look from the two guards' faces. Seeing this, Naruto quickly did a Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, shadow clone technique, and made 24 shadows clones of himself. Seeing so many Narutos at once, surprised both Kenryu and Ryu, but they quickly got over and realized what Naruto had meant. After which they both thanked Naruto for his help and then left to get others to help in the search and said they would join him in the search as soon as they could. Once they left, Naruto and his clones quickly left the estate and spread out in different directions of the forest outside the estate in the hope of finding Rurashio before she got hurt. Half an hour later, with Rurashio, stupid boy, how dare he treat us like some little child, how dare he look down of us, we show him, that we are just as tough as him, ranted Rurashio as she stomped through the forest, not really knowing or caring where she went. For the past 2.5 hours since her argument with Naruto, she had been walking through the forest by herself, since she wanted to prove to Naruto that she could do whatever he could and that she could handle the real world as well as he could. But soon enough her anger faded and she decided that she would go back to the estate, but the problem was that she did not know which direction to go, as she had been so angry that she did not pay attention to where she was going, where she then realized that she was lost. After a minute or so, Rurashio decided to just turn around and go straight ahead in the hopes of finding something that was familiar and that would lead her back home. For a few minutes Rurashio walked through the bushes and past the trees and not recognizing anything, but as she walked on through a large bush she suddenly hit something large, black and furry, which then started to growl after she bumped into it. When she stepped away from the thing it stood up and roared, revealing it to be a massive black bear. Seeing the bear, Rurashio let out a massive scream and started to run as fast as she could away from the bear, which quickly chased after her. With Naruto for the past half hour, Naruto, the real one, had been tracking the trail that he found that was left by Rurashio as she stomped through the forest. Thankful Naruto had learned how to track people fairly well thanks to his friend Amoe, who had taught him how to track people, although Naruto had to admit, it was fairly easy, since the trail Rurashio left was pretty easy to follow, especially when you consider the fact that she had no real experience outside her grandfather's country estate. As Naruto ran through the treetops he suddenly heard a girl screaming loudly. Quickly realizing that it was Rurashio, Naruto quickly ran off to the direction that the scream came from. It didn't take him long to find Rurashio, where he found her on the ground with a large black bear standing over her with its claws ready to rip her apart. Acting quickly, Naruto jumped down to them, where he did a falling midair spin kick with his superhuman strength to send the black bear flying into a nearby tree. Naruto, cried Rurashio in surprise and relief at being saved from the black bear. Are you alright, Rurashio-hime? Asked Naruto while still watching the black bear. Hi, we are fine thanks to you, said Rurashio, after which he heard the black bear's roar again, where when she turned back to it she saw the bear had got back up and charged forward at them. Stay back, cried Naruto as he charged head on into the black bear, where he ducked right under the black bear's massive claws and using his superhuman strength again, punched it right in its stomach with his right fist and sending the black bear flying right into 5 trees. When Rurashio saw this she could not believe her eyes that a mere boy, who was a year younger than her, could have such incredible strength, but she then remembered that one of the things that Naruto's mother Tsunade was famous for was her monstrous strength, which Naruto clearly had inherited. Once Naruto had dealt with the black bear, Rurashio went over to Naruto. Is it dead? To which Naruto shook his head. No, it's just knocked out and quat. After dealing with the black bear, Naruto then went and healed the small minor wounds that Rurashio had gotten from branches and thorns that she had hit as she ran from the black bear. He also then healed the bear so that when it woke up it would be okay. This of course surprised Rurashio, and when she asked him why, he simply told her that the black bear only attacked her because it had believed you had attacked it, in which it was only defending itself and did not deserve her to be hurt or die from its wounds. Once the black bear was healed, Naruto then had Rurashio got onto her back, where he then carried her on his back as he traveled back to the fire daimyo's country estate through the treetops. When they got to the main gates they met Naruto's mother and Shizune, along with the fire daimyo and most of his guards, samurai and servants, along with Kenryu and Ryu, who were overjoyed along with the fire daimyo to see the young princess safe and unharmed. 3 weeks later. Ow! Cried Naruto as he fell on the ground hard when he fell on his back when his katana was knocked away. Not bad, Naruto-san, But your stance is still much too rigged. You need to loosen up and be more flexible, and your grip is not tight enough, since you lost your sword, spoke a tall young long redden-haired man, whose hair was tied up in a ponytail that reached down to his shoulder blades and wore a red kosode and a white hakama along with a pair of white tabi, and a pair of waraji. This man's name was Kensai and was the strongest samurai and swordsman in Hai no Kuni. After hearing the story at how Naruto had searched and found Rurashio and then saved her from the bear, the fire daimyo insisted that he reward Naruto for saving his granddaughter. Naruto had refused gold or other valuable objects he had enough money for, and didn't need or want anymore. He tried to refuse other rewards that the fire daimyo tried to give him, but the fire daimyo insisted. So Naruto then asked him the fire daimyo could find him a swordsman to help train him in kenjutsu, which the fire daimyo did, by summoning Kensai to the estate and having him train him for as long as he was here. "Come on Naruto, you can beat him," cried Rurashio, as she cheered Naruto on as she watched him along with Kenryu and Enryu. After the incident with the black bear, Rurashio apologized to Naruto for being so rude and arrogant to him earlier, where Naruto accepted her apology. Soon after, Naruto and Rurashio became friends, and thanks to the incident and Naruto friendship, Rurashio began to change for the better. She became more understanding to people and was even polite to the servants when she asked for something or got something, and even said I instead we. She was also more understanding of other people, thanks to Naruto. She was also willing to get and do things herself instead of ordering servants around to do it for her. But still she called herself the royal we from time to time and was still stubborn and did not have too much patience. But she was still a better person than she was before. Naruto also became better friends with Kenryu and Enryu as well, where he learned that Enryu had a high-pitched voice, which was why he usually remained silent most of the time, as he was very self-conscious about it, and Naruto had to swear that he would never tell anyone about it. Naruto soon got up and got his katana and got into his stance again and did what Kensai had told him to do, after which he then attacked Kensai with his katana. Unknown to Naruto and the others, the fire daimyo had been watching them from the balcony above them and was enjoying watching Naruto train and seeing his granddaughter cheering him on. The fire daimyo had been watching Naruto train with Kensai for much of the past weeks and could see that Naruto's swordsmanship was improving very well, and when Naruto was not training, he was hanging around and talking or playing with his granddaughter, which made the fire daimyo smile when he saw them. After a little while he was soon joined by another person, that person being Naruto's mother Tsunade. "Ah, Tsunade, so nice of you to join me. I take it that since you're here my son has nearly recovered," spoke the fire daimyo. "Yes, he has. In a few days' time your son should be fully recovered," replied Tsunade as she looked down to watch Naruto train with Kensai. "That is excellent news. I'm very much relieved to hear it," spoke the fire daimyo as he was glad to hear that his son would recover. I'm certain that Rurashio would be equally relieved to hear it as well, as she had been greatly worried about him since before your arrival. "I also take it that once he had healed you and your son as well as your apprentice will leave," spoke the fire daimyo. "Hi, since we cannot stay in one place too long in case we draw attention to ourselves," replied Tsunade. "I understand and know that I shall keep my word and no one will hear about your son from my servants, my guards, my samurai or myself, and I certain that they will not hear it from Rurashio, since I have explained the consequences for Naruto to her if she did tell anyone." "Thank you, I'm grateful for that," replied Tsunade, after which she then heard a sad sigh come from the fire daimyo. "It is indeed a shame that you must leave, since my granddaughter had become quite fond of your son and is the first real friend her own age that she has had. Not to mention your son has had quite the effect on my granddaughter, where she is more sensitive to others' feelings and more understanding. Ever since my daughter's, Rurashio's mother, passing when giving birth to Rurashio and her father being killed in an accident a year after her birth, I have tried to make sure that she was well cared for and made sure she would have everything she could want. But sadly my doting on her made her spoiled and she did not value other people as she should have. That was until your son arrived and changed her for the better," spoke the fire daimyo with a smile. "Yay, Naruto has a knack for changing people for the better. He did it for me by being born and giving something to live for, and he did the same for the high priestess daughter Shion," said Tsunade with her own smile. At this the fire daimyo raised his eyebrow in curiosity. "When you say the high priestess, do you mean the high priestess of Oni no Kuni, Demon Country, Priestess Miraku?" "Hi, so I guess from what you have just told me you and your family were somehow involved in her daughter being saved, considering the exact details of the attempted kidnapping of the high priestess daughter and how it was prevented were never released," said the fire daimyo. "Hi, Naruto was the one who helped save her," replied Tsunade. "I see. It seems your son has quite the talent for saving princesses in danger," chuckled the fire daimyo. "Unfortunately yes," replied Tsunade with a slight annoyance. "He gets it from his father," mumbled Tsunade slightly, which thankfully the fire daimyo didn't hear. "I guessing then that you have heard what happened last year in the country," said the fire daimyo. "Ha! What happened in Oni no Kuni?" asked Tsunade. Oni no Kuni was attacked by a demon called Morio. The high priestess was able to stop it by separating its spirit from its body and then seal them separately away from one another. Unfortunately, doing so cost the high priestess her life, said the fire daimyo sadly, since he knew the high priestess well and had enjoyed talking to her. That must be why Shien has not replied to any of Naruto letters. The poor girl must be distraught. But I can't tell Naruto. If I do, he will want to go there immediately, and we can't afford to draw attention to ourselves, since if we go there we surely will, thought Tsunade sadly. After which she decided that she would not tell Naruto, although he would probably be angry with her later on when he finds out, but hopefully he can one day understand why she did it. Thank you for informing me of this, Daimyo Dono, replied Tsunade. So do you intend to go back? Since your son and the new high priestess Shien were friends, said the fire daimyo. No, said Tsunade, which surprised the fire daimyo. If we go we could very well draw attention to ourselves there, and that is the last thing we need right now. Very well then Tsunade, that is your choice, but I believe that is a mistake, since often enough when you keep certain secrets like this from your son they often come back to haunt you later on in your life, spoke the fire daimyo. Tsunade nodded in understanding but did not change her mind, since it was for the best, and whether Naruto would hate or not for it in the future did not matter to her as long as he was safe from harm. Soon enough both Tsunade and the fire daimyo decided to end their conversation and decided to just watch Naruto train. Several days later, at the main gate of the daimyo estate, once the fire daimyo's son had fully recovered, Tsunade had decided it was time to leave. Goodbye Tsunade-san, and thank you for all your help, spoke the fire daimyo, to which Tsunade nodded that it was okay. I wish you a safe journey, said Kensai as he shook Naruto's hand and handed Naruto some kenjutsu scrolls. Thanks Kenezi-sensei, replied Naruto as he took the scrolls and put them in his side pouch, where then turned around to say goodbye to Rurishio. Goodbye Rurishio-chan, it was nice meeting you, said Naruto. Take care Naruto-kun, said Rurishio, before she then held out a small silver ring to Naruto. Take it as a small token from my grandfather and me for saving my life and quat. Naruto took it and put it on and looked at it. The ring was made of silver and with the symbol of a bird on it. 5. The bird on the ring is a phoenix and represents fire, which is the symbol of my family. I thought it suited you since you said you are going to be a Konoha ninja one day, and fire is said to embody energy and passion. So I thought it was perfect, said Rurishio with a small smile and blush. Thank you Rurishio-chan, it great, said Naruto. Goodbye Naruto-sa, it was a pleasure meeting you, spoke the fire daimyo. Thanks Oji-san, it was nice meeting you as well, said Naruto, which caused Daimyo to chuckle as Naruto amused him so much. While Tsunade yelled and bonked her son on the head and yelled that she was going to drill some manners into her son if it was the last thing she did. Soon enough Naruto, Tsunade, Shizune and Tonton left the main gate and walked away. As they did, Naruto cried out that he would see them all again. I have to say young Naruto is quite an interesting young man, and I'm certain that we will be seeing and hearing great things from him soon enough, where things will become very interesting, spoke the fire daimyo as he looked down at Rurishio, who was still looking out to Naruto and the others who were walking away. Hi, I think so too Jiji-sama, respectful term for saying grandfather, said Rurishio with a look that the fire daimyo and the others were very familiar with. It was a look that Rurishio saw something she wanted. A month later, 1 month after the events at the fire daimyo country estate, Jiraiya met up with Tsunade and the others to give Naruto his next lessons in ninjutsu and fuinjutsu. After finishing one of his lessons with Jiraiya, he decided that since Jiraiya was here, he could finally confront them about him being the Yondame's son and the Jinchuriki for the Kyubi no Yoko. So after he had washed up from his training, Naruto then went into the next room to find his mother and Jiraiya sitting down having a plate of sake, while Shizune was reading a romance book with Tonton sitting next to her. Ka-chan, Uro-senin, I want to ask you something, spoke Naruto. Sure, Naru-chan, what is it, said Tsunade as she was taking a sip of sake along with Jiraiya. I want you to tell me why none of you told me that my father was the Yondame and that I'm the Jinchuriki for the Kyubi no Yoko and quat. Once Naruto said this, both Jiraiya and Tsunade spit out the sake that they had been drinking, and stared wide-eyed in disbelief at him. Since out of all the things they expected Naruto to say, they never expect this. Shizune dropped her book and let out a gasp as she was equally as surprised as well. Naruto, WHO told you this, cried Tsunade, panic-like, fearing that somehow someone had learned the truth about Naruto and told him, since she knew that neither Shizune, Jiraiya nor herself told him, and the only other person that was supposed to know was her sensei Sarutobi. I found out myself, said Naruto calmly. How? When? Where? Said Jiraiya, who was as worried as Tsunade was about how Naruto found out. I found out about a month ago at the daimyo's estate, replied Naruto, whereupon seeing the worried, fearful and confused looks on everyone's face, Naruto went and explained how he found out. Once Naruto had finished explaining how he discovered that Minato was his father and sealed the Kyubi into him, Jiraiya, Tsunade, Shizune and even Tauntaun had looks of being completely stunned on their faces, as they could not believe that Naruto had figured out everything out by himself without any help. Jiraiya was the first come out of his shock, where he then quickly went and got 3 more sake plates and poured some sake into them and then handed 2 of them to Tsunade and even Shizune, who then all took a large gulp of sake with Jiraiya to help settle themselves. Once Jiraiya had finished, he started to laugh. Damn brat, you're defiantly your parents' son, that for sure, since you defiantly got bit of both your mom's and your dad's brains. Thanks I guess, but none of you have answered my question yet, which is why did none of you tell me the truth about my father and that I'm a Jinchuriki, said Naruto calmly, despite the fact that he was quite angry at the fact that they kept something so important about himself. At this his mother sighed, since she had dreaded that this say would come and had thought it wouldn't have come so soon, not to mention that Naruto would discover it himself. I'm sorry Naru-chan, we thought that it would be best at the time that you didn't know about it, since if people found out that you were not only my son but the son of the Yondaime Hokage as well, then they would come after you twice as hard as they would if they just found out that you were my son, since both your father and I were the strongest shinobis in our fields, where if people learned that you existed and were the byproduct of your father and myself, where the chances of you inheriting some, most or all of our best known qualities were quite high. Then there would be countless people after you as either revenge for something that we did to them or in the hopes of somehow controlling you as using you for their own gains, said Tsunade. I understand that well enough, but if I could keep the fact that I have the Makuten bloodline and that I'm your son secret, I could keep the fact that I'm the Yondaime son a secret as well, replied Naruto coolly. Well, you see brat, we were kind of afraid that if you knew that Yondaime was your father, you'd be so excited, since you idolized him so much, which was kind of my fault that you did, but still we thought that you would tell people that he was your father. But still, you're right, we were wrong to keep it from you, since you were able to keep your Makuten bloodline secret and your mother's identity a secret. It was just that bringing up your father is kind of a touchy subject with your mom, said Jiraiya as he saw the scowl on Tsunade's face at the mention of Minato. You mean over the fact that he made me into a Jinchuriki, spoke Naruto neutrally, to which Jiraiya nodded. You have to understand Naruto, your father had no choice. If he didn't do it, then the Kyuubi would have destroyed Konoha and killed everyone, explained Jiraiya earnestly. I understand that, but still, why me? Your father knew that to seal the Kyuubi, he would have to seal it into a very young child, so to keep it contained, and although he could have held it in another young child, he did not. The reason was because he could not bring himself to ask another family or another parent to make that kind of sacrifice when he could not himself with his own son, said Jiraiya, since Minato was always too noble in that way. I surprised you let him, Ka-chan, didn't you try and stop him? Asked Naruto, as he had wondered this as well, especially at how angry she was at him. I didn't know at the time. I was unconscious from a sedative that Shizune gave me to let me rest after giving birth to you, so I didn't know until a few days later. If I had known, I would never have allowed it, and I would killed him myself for even suggesting it. The only reason you didn't grow up with the same hard life as most Jinchuriki is because no one knew you were the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, and if they did, the villagers would have attacked you or treated you as an outcast for being it if you had stayed in Konoha, which was one of the reasons why I didn't stay there to raise you, growled Tsunade, since even over the years her anger against Minato had not lessened one bit. Fine, but that still doesn't explain why you didn't tell me about it. Were you just going to keep it hidden and hope I never found out? Asked Naruto, as he was still angry about being kept in the dark about something this important about himself. No, of course not. It was just that we thought that you were too young at the time, and we thought it would be best if we would wait till you were older where you could handle it better. Since we were afraid that if you found out when you were young, you would think that you were a monster or something and be afraid you would hurt others and would make yourself into an outcast. I also didn't want you to wake up at nights fearing that the Kyuubi would come out and destroy all of us, said Tsunade truthfully, since on more than one night she had nightmares that the Kyuubi got out of Naruto and killed him. After hearing this, Naruto just sighed. Although he understood both Jiraiya and his mother's reasons along with his father's reasons, he still felt a little angry at them all, although he knew over time he would get over it. But still, there was still something else that he was wondering. So when were you going to tell me the whole truth? He asked. We had planned to tell you about your father right before you would go to Konoha, while we were going to tell you about the Kyuubi about a year after, once you had fully settled into Konoha, said Tsunade, which Naruto nodded, accepting it, since although he did not like the way they did it, he still understood why. If I may, there's something I would like to know, spoke Shizune for the first time, as she had been watching the whole event from the sidelines. And what's that, Wani-chan? Asked Naruto. How did you know about Jinchurikis in the first place, since none of you ever mentioned them to you, spoke Shizune. This also got Tsunade and Jiraiya curious, since they were wondering the same thing. Normally a question like that would worry Naruto, especially as he wanted to keep his meeting with Killer Bee and the others secret from his mother and the others. But thankfully Naruto had come up with a believable excuse, since he knew something like this would come up. This was why he waited a while to ask them about the Kyuubi and Yondaime, since he needed time to come up with a believable excuse to tell them. He told that he had went to the library to find out more about his Makuten bloodline and its effect on the bijus, since Tsunade and the others' knowledge of it were limited, and he thought that he might find something new about it in the library. He then told them that during his research he accidentally learned about Jinchurikis, when people sealed the bijus into humans. He also accidentally read about how the Yondaime had killed the Kyubi, which was something he found strange, since not even the Shadaime was able to do that, with his Makuten powers, and the bijus were monster made out of chakra, which would make them virtually impossible to kill physically. So when he did research on the Yondaime and saw his picture, he slowly put the pieces together and discovered the truth by himself. Thankfully Tsunade and the others believed Naruto, since technically the story was half true, which made it all the more believable to his mother and Jiraiya as well as Shizune. Once all the questions were answered, Naruto then turned to Jiraiya. Uro-sennin, do you have any of those pieces of paper that are made from those special types of tree, that allow you to find out what nature affinity you have? Asked Naruto. Yeah, I have one, but why do you want one? But we already know you have earth and water affinity thanks to you have the Makuten bloodline. It would just be a waste of time for you to use it, replied Jiraiya. Well, you see, during my medical studies with One-chan I read that a lot of times children will often inherit their affinity from one of their parents, and in some cases inherit two nature affinities from both their parents, and I read that the Yondaime had an affinity to wind and lightning, said Naruto. But there's no certainty that you will inherit any of your father's affinities. Most people are only born with one, and sometimes at a completely different one from their parents. Sarutobi-sensei's own son Asuma has an affinity to wind, and neither sensei nor his wife had an affinity to wind. The only reason you were born with two affinities is because of your Makuten bloodline, since the only reason why many bloodline users are born with two or more affinities is due to their bloodline abilities. The chances of you having another nature affinity that isn't connected to your bloodline is about 1,000,000 to 1 if not more, spoke Jiraiya. Just humor me, Uro-sennin, since it can't hurt to just try and see why happens, said Naruto. Fine, grumbled Jiraiya as he found this to be a waste, but decided to just prove to Naruto he could not have been born with any other affinities other than earth and water. Jiraiya then took out the paper from his side pouch and then held the paper to Naruto for him to touch. When Naruto did, Jiraiya's jaw hit the floor along with Tsunade's and Shizune's when they saw the paper cut into 3 pieces as it fell to the ground. Where the first one turned to dirt, the second became damp and the third crumpled up, showing Jiraiya and the others that Naruto had 4 natural nature affinities, 1 for earth, 1 for water, 1 for wind and 1 for lightning. Impossible, thought Tsunade. It can't be though. Shizune, how the hell is this possible, thought Jiraiya exclamation mark. Are you certain that there's nothing wrong with the paper? It must be defective or something, said Tsunade as she still could not believe that Naruto had 4 natural nature affinities. No, there's nothing wrong with I certain of it. I picked it up a while back with a few others and they all worked fine, said Jiraiya. But how can Naruto have 4 natural nature affinities? Said Shizune. I don't really know, said Jiraiya. I can explain his earth and water affinity easily enough, but as for the lighting and wind, well, it obviously came from Minato. Since he had both, but he naturally had an affinity to wind and later trained to get lightning, he didn't have it naturally. Like I said before, for Naruto to have both his mother's and his father's nature affinities were about over 1,000,000 to 1, more so when he got Minato's lightning affinity natural instead of training for it like he did. My only answer was luck of the draw, where Naruto was one of those very lucky few that were allowed to inherit both his parents' nature affinities, replied Jiraiya as he was still baffled at what just happened. Could have it because of the Kyubi? Asked Tsunade. Possible, but I doubt it, since other than his quick recovery and healing, all other effects that the Kyubi may give would be nullified by Naruto Makuten bloodline, said Jiraiya. Naruto, did you know that this would happen? Said Tsunade, since considering that Naruto was the one to push for it, then it was likely that he knew about it. No, not really. I suspected that I might have inherited one of the Yondaime's affinities, but I didn't know for certain, lied Naruto, since he could not tell the truth as to how he knew he had 4 nature affinities. At this, Tsunade frowned, since she suspected that Naruto wasn't telling her the truth really, but she decided to let it go for now since she knew that Naruto would eventually tell them the truth when he was ready. Besides, she wasn't going to look a gift horse in the mouth, where her son had 4 natural nature affinities, which would help him greatly in his training and would give him a big advantage in the future. So what will we do now? Asked Naruto. Well, we're going to train you a lot harder now, since you need to master those new nature affinities you discovered, and even though none of us have those affinities, we will help you the best we can. But it will still be hard, since like with Makuten you won't have us to show you firsthand to do jutsus that involve those elements, said Tsunade. That's okay, I master them both in no time flat, said Naruto with a grin. At this, Tsunade and the others smiled, since, if anyone could do it, it would be Naruto. Okay Gaki, I guess we better start work again now, said Jiraiya as he and Naruto went out to train again. Naru-chan certainly is full of surprises, said Tsunade, to which Shizune nodded with a smile. Well, It seems like we've come to the end of part 3 of The Hope of the Senju Clan, aka, What If Naruto Was a Senju? Anyways, I hope all of you have a wonderful day/night. Bye.